Blog Talk Radio.
The lotus blue, 50 cent soda blue. Look at what we doing with the knowledge. We developing a type of college, building a machine with these cyber dollars. We brought you the hottest breed of scholars to water your mind with alkaline seeds of knowledge, to resurrect the lost cities in the sea of knowledge. I'm from the Brooklyn Zoo with a sign spread, don't feed the scholars, know the ledge. Every Tuesday and Friday, at least 2 hours, broadcasting from ground zero, superheroes, the new Twin Towers, red and the blue, the new Jack Bowers, 24 hours of like a more power. Hotep, Islam, peace out, shalom, welcome home. No one man should have all of that power. Return to the superhead rules in this age of waterbury. We in the matrix, auto-staring, hydroplaning down the information highway, hanging out the window, shooting at the angels sideways. 9 p.m. Tuesday to Friday. It's Tuesday. If you coming at it sideways, you can say I did it my way. The good Dr. Sinatra, I'm Bojangle, the fallen angel, the church of Satan. When we gonna see the church debating, the earth's awaiting. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the earth is shaking. We birth a nation, we percolating. We easy to swallow. The information is hard as hell. The pills is in circulation. Impersonations, hard to tell. The swerves is hating. Somebody go right tell Gargamel.
Gargamel! Oh, please don't be frightened. I'm terribly sorry about this.
I bring my life to the table, I bring my right to the table, I bring health, wealth, knowledge, and self to the table, I bring no to less CD to the table, conscious table, I bring no to less radio to the table, conscious radio, conscious Wikipedia, I bring DVDs, books, no to less media to the table, killing fables, to the families of the royals, I bring Kings County to the table, restore the royalty, the melanated, Clark Gable, social culture. To the tables, the superhead rules to the tables. I bring 7 heaven sea balls to the table. Soul water to the table. Red and blue, the Big Daddy Kane, ready, willing, and able to walk you through my stables. Full length stables, back from the future like Bishop and Cable. To introduce the freshmen to the X-Men and all of their candy excellence. No question, class is in session. Report to the chat room, pen and pad in hand. You wanna be there early and beat the caravan. People storming the gate to get a plate. Them lines packed like the Happy Land. Either open up with the latest cuts or them rap tools. They're bumped by the latest trucks. From 9 to 11, we do it in the dark, like we used to do it in the park. For the most part, from the very second that the show starts, you're witnessing a pose off, think Mozart, huh? The love received so far has been so hard. There's a few dudes that rough, but they medulla, they sharp, they ain't so soft. Don't be thrown off, they be Zoloft. Avoid them at all costs, like raccoons or skunks. But back to the regular scheduled program. The program is sponsored by 7 Heaven. What else in hell can you get an open line to heaven at 11:11? Emerge at the other end of those meditation portals and elevated warp tools, even some abort tools. Any questions, comments, or concerns, press 1. To everyone else, thanks for attending another session. I'm pleased to teach, but it's an honor to learn. Certainly, courtesy of KTL University.
Oh, please don't be frightened. I'm terribly sorry about this. You are?
Peace to you and yours, peace to you and yours. This is Know the Ledge Radio, and you are now rocking with the best. Yes, indeed, this is your host, Brother Blue Pill. All right? Bring in my co-host, Brother Red, and, collectively we're going to pay our respects, and we're going to move on up, shed some light to our brother, our good brother, Sherman Hemsley. You know what I'm saying? Gave the family plenty of good times, plenty of laughs, many memories. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to strut this thing out George Jefferson style. Caller from the 347. Peace.
Peace to the God. Peace to the family.
Family. If you're too conscious, show respect. Please hang the phone up now. You can catch us in the archives. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna pay our respects. You feel me?
Word. To my dude, to the God, George Jefferson, aka I invented swag. You know what I mean? This one is for you, bro.
Well, we're moving on now to the side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on to the side, we finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues, getting our turn at bat. Long as we live, you and me, baby, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Forever moving on up to the side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up to the side, we finally got a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Amen. Jesus. All right. And
that's my dude right there, man.
Upper room. You know what I mean? And, we want to salute him, man. Integral part of who we are and what we experienced and how we got through what we were experiencing by way of the humor that we provided. Comedy is essential, you know what I'm saying? Now, we do know that life is a stage. We're not saying make a fool of yourself. You know what I'm saying? We ain't saying act a fool every time that the camera's on you. But at the same time, some things are very essential. And for my generation, the Jeffersons were one of those things. You know what I mean?
They had a few themes were, expressed in the Jeffersons. That was moving on up, you know what I mean? Ride around and getting it, changing your condition, you know what I'm saying? And Mr. Jefferson was very outspoken when it came to Caucasians, He's a little guy with a big heart.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He made the word honky, a popular phrase. And the way that, it rolled off his tongue, it gave a lot of people confidence, to let that word rip. And
and he invented swag. That walk was unmatched in many circles right there. That was a classic strut right there,
So, whippersnappers, when you see Tupac Shakur, George Jefferson out of the courtroom, for those of you who may know who Tupac Shakur is. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you see that? You know what I'm saying? That's something that he borrowed from George Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? George Jefferson was a little man that did it in a big way.
Big way.
Even if it was fictitious, a lot of people implemented that and made it a reality. I don't think we need to beat the drum anymore about the very thin line between art and life. you know what I'm saying, and how things come from one realm directly into the other, or how they directly influence activity in this particular spectrum, you know. Interestingly enough, I'm not going to spend too much time on Colorado. You know what I'm saying, family? There'll be 100 shows that other people are dealing with that particular topic. And I don't see a sense in sitting around and pretty much speculating. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what happened. You was not in that man's brain. The way a lot of you are operating in terms of your decoding, you should work for the government. And that's not me taking a slight. I'm just saying, make the shit worth something. Go and get a check. You know what I'm saying? Forward the progression of the republic. Take your services somewhere where they can be appreciated for what they are. Because there's some geniuses amongst us. You know what I'm saying? But they are pissing in a very small pond, and all of that genius is not pretty much going anywhere outside of the fact that, you know, everyone's showing one another they smart. And that's great. But at what point do you take smarts and make it intelligence? You know what I'm saying? At what point is this intel going to be used to pretty much salvage a situation or turn a dollar? So I've heard some wonderful breakdowns, you know what I'm saying? And shout out to the people that had the insight, you know, that were able to astrologically chart things and see what was coming or what have you. But y'all need to be putting your resume into the government, man. Get yourself a top-level position at this point. You know what I'm saying? Find out when Israel's going in Iran. Make you some real bread. Get you some of that Bain capital.
Forex money.
But what I did notice this weekend, because on the Boob Tube, they show every single superhero movie. So I seen every Superman. I got a chance to see every Spider-Man, and I seen every Batman. They all have two of the same underlying themes in all of them. And I guess that rant until KT comes with Hollywood Decoded, or Batman Decoded for that matter. All of them are dealing with the whole aspect of you can't fight fire without fire, to a degree, because the villain is pretty much there to pull. The villain is dealing with no moral character code. The villain is saying, look, I'm coming to kill shit, you know what I'm saying? And like a raging fire, right? Like the fire that you've seen in Colorado, and you can't put the fire out with water. Case in point, I just shot 71 people, but you're going to put me in handcuffs. I came to get busy, but you're going to allow me to surrender. I came to die, but you're going to put me in cuffs. So here we are in a reality where the world now needs a Batman. But because of the fabricated sense of a moral code in this particular country, where when it comes to a Caucasian, they can't finish the deal, right? Remember, Batman can't kill, you know what I'm saying? He ain't got it in him to put Bane out of his miseries. He ain't got it in him to put the joke out of his miseries. Feel me? So, you know, it continues this continuous clowning of this particular system, or whatever is left of what you want to call justice. Because this is still something biblical, and justice is still eye for an eye in this particular republic. Let your ass not be Caucasian, and then you would understand what that means. You feel me? And so the challenge is the moral character, the fact that, you know, you want to be a hero, but you can't kill. You know what I'm saying? You don't have it in you to finally seal the deal. You have too much compassion to actually be taken seriously, like Batman. You know what I'm saying? So all of these characters in all of these movies were unmasked, right? All of them were unmasked, and it was all dealing with when the enemy really wanted to get them, he went for their queens. All of them joints had that same underlying theme. When the enemy wants your ass, he's going for your woman, okay? They said hit him in the heart. Superman got hit in the heart, Spider-Man, and Batman. And all of their wizards was the ones that demasked them as well. Lois Lane, Mary Jane, and whoever the hell Batman was with. You know what I'm saying? They was all the ones to pull the mask off of them first before the villain actually demasked them. So, you know.
Interesting.
The Batman Decoded this would be an epic one coming up. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I look forward to that. To the family, the brother KT, the Arch Degree, will be presenting his monumental, another chapter in his monumental decoding series. He will be doing Batman Decoded Thursday, August 2nd, with the brother Ampool, Noble Ampools Network at myastrologycoach.com/remote view. Feel me? So we will be beating the drums for that upcoming lecture in the near future. For the family, it's in the tri-state area. Part 2 of the Moorish history presentation will be taking place tomorrow in Harlem at the Black Theater, presented by the brother Red Pill. I will be doing a 3-hour visual presentation about the fall of the Moorish Empire, post-World War II, and what happened in the Americas, South, Central, North, and the adjoining islands, and what eventually led up to what we know as slavery. So if you have questions about that, you want to fill in some of those pieces, and you want to dispel some of the myths that you've been taught that may be anchoring you down in your lower, have you looking at yourself in a real inferior way, come through tomorrow. I'm here to break the chains. That is the National Black Theater, the 3rd floor, Moorish History and Heritage class, Taj Tariq Bey, Raz Mariah Bey, special presentation by the brother Red Pill. All right, I'm going in. I've been spending all week digging in the crates, you know what I mean? And I'm also going to be selling a 500 slide. The presentation that I will be doing, I will be selling it in a PDF form. Once you take it home and do some studying themselves, and also you can take it as the educational homeschoolers. You can use it as an educational tool. You can also do your own lectures with it. I encourage all to take the information and spread it. So that's coming up. It's going to be huge. And, we will be taping it so the KTL family that are not in New York and won't be able to make it, you'll be able to get it on video. All right? So that's what's up.
And the Blue Pill will be in the building. That 7 Heaven Seymour Soul Gold Water, Soul Gold Liquid Drops. Might even have some new products. I got powdered sea moss as well. Might have some moringa on me as well. So for the family that has been hitting me up and asking me how they could get their hands on some, if you're within earshot of tonight's conversation and you want to get an ample supply, come and see me tomorrow or holler at me and I'll put something aside and work something out with you because I'll be in New York for a few days following. You heard?
Yeah. All right. So, we're not going to waste any time, family. We want to begin our episode 7. You said something?
You still there?
Said something, Blue? Excuse me? Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Going through a wind funnel. Still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. So I was saying that we're not going to waste any time because this is a 2-part series. This is a 2-part episode. It's going to be taking place today, and it's going to culminate on Friday, family. We are finally bringing forth the origins of the Metaphysical Underground. All right? This is something that has never, ever been done before, as I know. Okay? You're going to be hearing from some brothers who have been behind the scenes that have never even been on Blog Talk Radio to present and to tell the world the story about the origins of the conscious community, right? As we all may know, a lot of the work, a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears that have been put into the conscious community has been depreciated over the years, unfortunately. We have a lot of people who have just been, you know, they're just getting into the consciousness, and a lot of people have no idea about the origins of the conscious community, who played what part, who was responsible for doing what, who set what up, a lot of things, a lot of questions and whatnot. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is we are going to bring forth the architects, the builders of this worldwide, I would dare to say galactical movement that we know now as the conscious community, which started out as the Metaphysical Underground. Huh?
Right. I say quote unquote.
Quote, the Metaphysical Underground. We're going to bring our master teacher, the Dr. Phil Valentine. He will be returning to the show tonight, and he will be returning to the show on Friday as well. Alongside the good Doc, we will have our brother Black Doc.
Yes.
Our brother Azariah, also known as Azazel. Our brother Shabazz. Our brother Rich. Our brother Chris. Our brother A.A. Rashid. And a few other dignitaries. Okay?
The Sarnetta, right? Checking in.
Is who?
I said, is Sarnetta checking in?
And Sarnetta as well, yes. I believe Sarnetta may be on the next show on Friday. So,
right.
Honored.
Because what we got to explain to the family is that, you know, foundation has to be laid, and there's a house that has to be built on top of the foundation. So even though people have been present in the community doing community works, what we're calling that, and I can't even, you know, I'll have to phrase it by using his term, the house of consciousness in this particular current incarnation. It got built in waves. There was layers and cycles. So tonight we're talking about the foundation that was built in terms of the channel that was laid by Eye Opener Production and the Metaphysical Underground that brought lectures to the youth of New York City. You know what I'm saying? That pretty much were able to plant those seeds in fertile soil where now you have oak trees that have grown from that. You know what I'm saying? It was done at a very auspicious time where the first lecture was December 21st, 2002. So 10 years from that, 10-year anniversary of that particular first seed being planted is December 21st, 2012. So how's that for an anniversary for your ass? You dig what I'm saying? So these dates are very key, you know what I mean, and very significant. It is not by chance that that is when the first seed went into the ground. Now, that wasn't the very first time that the lecture was held. That's not the very first time that the word consciousness was used in the collective. That's not the very first time that metaphysics was unveiled onto the people. But it was the renaissance of it. You know what I'm saying? And now we are living in the throes of the current incarnation. A lot of things happen that were able to magnify and push it along and make it that much more, you know, greater, grander, or what have you. That being social network. You know what I'm saying? That being 9/11. That being the rise of the Moors. There was a lot of things that particularly fed into the acceleration of it. But the foundation had to be laid for it to excel. You know what I'm saying? In order for a foot to take off, there had to be a ground to give it a particular level of traction. You know what I'm saying? So, that is, that's what we're going to be delving into.
is going in and out slightly, not in a bad way, just a little, just a little something, a little bit of in and out here and there. So that's just your heads up. Yeah. All right. And like I said, I want to encourage the new generation that is going to listen to this show that are out there in your towns, whether in the Midwest, whether you're in the South, whether you're in the West, the Northeastern regions, wherever you may be, overseas, across the pond, in Africa, you know what I'm saying? On Sirius B and C, you think about doing lectures. Wherever you are, we want to show you through presenting this story to you that all things are possible. And everything that takes place isn't necessarily always put on paper.
Right. It's
not always started out with 20 people, you know what I'm saying, or 100 people together. Sometimes it started out with 2 people. You feel what I'm saying? A lot of people sacrificed families. A lot of people rebuilt their families. A lot of people rebuilt new friendships, lost old friendships. A whole lot of things went on in the formation and the and the building of this empire that we know as a conscious community. So tonight, you were in for a monumental treat. You know what I mean? You're going to be sitting. I encourage the family to take notes because the information that the brothers will be delivering and sharing with the family is going to be profound. And like I said, it's never been discussed in an open form in this fashion before. So this is history.
Indeed. And, Brother Rev Phil Valentine posted a note on Facebook, saying how proud he was of the current crop of metaphysicians, decoders, lecturers, and things of that nature. And he feels so blissful to be able to see the fruitions, the fruits of his labor actually ripen and take this thing to the next level. And a lot of people took exception because their names wasn't on that short list. That's why episodes like this are so very important, and it's not to exclude anyone, but we have to lay the foundation because there are people that participated in the formation that have gone unsung. And in order to right the wrongs, right, in order to smooth that bump out in the foundation, you feel me? So when the wind blows, that house won't be so shaky anymore. This had to be done. We're taking some pebbles out of the foundation, smoothing some things out, moving other things up, so you can get a proper insight and look as to how did this thing start. Because whether you know it or not, you are participating in it, so you should want to know pretty much what brought this thing about. You feel me? So if it has to be resurrected and done again, then you know the story. All right?
Hey, sir.
So how you want to start this thing?
Let's pay the bills real quick and then get right into it.
Okay. All right, so we're going to pay a water bill. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Family, you got to tighten that faucet, that little drip and drop. Run your water bill up. So, with no further ado, we're going to play this water bill and get right back into it.
From times of lore, ancients believed gold aided in prolonged lifespans and cured many diseases. It is proven to enhance mental astuteness and sharpen intuition. Gold aids in optimal bodily function and increases electrical conductivity and cellular electrical impulses. Gold can balance energy fields and is beneficial for opening and balancing the crown, heart chakra, and the third eye. One of the main benefits from an active third eye, or pineal gland, is the ability to have lucid dreams. This elixir of life is now available in 2 ounces for an amazing low price of $49.99. Our bodies are our temples, and Soul Gold Liquid Drops is essential to our transformation. Order now. Go to www.soulgoldbiz.com today.
Peace. Indeed. Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry, say that again?
That's you texting?
Texting?
Yeah.
Yeah. You heard me?
I heard you texting me. That's like saying that you hear a thought, right? I heard you texting. Kind of deep.
Yeah.
So do we have tonight's first guest online in the call queue?
Brother Azariah, if you are in the call queue, yes, please press 1.
I believe that I press just 1. Hand go up. Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead. Yeah. Without any further ado,
I want to inaugurate tonight's episode with our first.
Read the description.
Okay, let me read the description and we'll jump directly into it. In order to properly understand the nature of a phenomenon, it is best to know its origins. As consciousness continues to connect with the masses and metaphysics continues to dominate the headlines, the underground metaphysical community is embarking on a profound milestone. Almost 10 years ago, Eye Opener Productions, comprising of the Black Dot, Brother Chris and Brother Shabazz, officially jump-started a renaissance in consciousness by choosing to book Rev Phil Valentine for their inaugural lecture. Breaking with tradition, their target audience was specifically the youth. In the same fashion that Clarence 13X implored decades before, they brought the high sciences out of to the street, where it became accessible to the youth. Once the seed was planted, a decade later, we are surrounded by a jungle of consciousness. In some areas, those fruits have flourished. In others, they have shriveled up and are in desperate need of water. Once and for all, we set the record straight about the origins and give praises where praises are due. December 21st, 2012 will mark the 10-year anniversary of the very first lecture Eye Opener conducted with Rev Phil Valentine, giving birth to the Metaphysical Underground in this current incarnation. So the countdown is underway. Let the truth be told. And with no further ado, I'm going to go to caller from 718-288. Peace.
Peace, brother. What's going on?
Greetings.
Peace. Can you hear me, brother?
Absolutely.
I'm clear.
All right. Cool. That's awesome, bro. Good job you're doing, man. I mean, really, this blog talk is going to be a historical blog talk area where people are going to go here for years to come to listen to old archive shows and beyond. So what you guys are doing, Red Pill and Blue Pill, is an excellent work. And in actuality, it's going to, in the future, produce some very positive karma for you. So I'm very happy about that. And it's always good because I remember early on the hard work and bringing speakers in and being behind the scenes. I know what you have to go through. And my objective was to get other people to think for themselves and do for themselves just by example. Just watch. I ain't got to tell you nothing. Go, take the DVDs or whatever you do and spread them, just like a newsstand. We always need new news, so it'll never die. This is what we always did, and this is always going to be. And so one day you will pass the baton, but those archives will be so valuable to generations to come. So I'm glad of that, brother.
Indeed, absolutely.
And I want to let me just give a shout out to my queen sitting here with me.
Absolutely.
And also give a shout out to I have quite a few master teachers. One is Phil Valentine, Bobby Hammett, the great C. Freeman L. And, you know, brother, I could just be here all day long just doing that, okay? Then the young brothers that came out of that, you know, Black Dot and Cy Netta and YouTube Brothers and so on and so on. So it shows us that the universe is saying, yes, it's the correct direction. And I wouldn't really call it a community. I would just say we're just all on the same vibration because, you know, once we put it in a community kind of thing, then it has to stand up to certain standards. And if consciousness really can go in any direction, it can do all types of things. There are people who are conscious who are politicians, who are officers, and they do things that you may not ever know about. It's really an interesting scenario.
Indeed.
Yes.
And, you know, again, like I mentioned before, we're talking about a certain period. In this particular case, there was inaugurated in the later 2001, early 2002 period. But for someone such as yourself, who was there prior to that, you know, I want you to be a voice for brothers like Big Man that's not here, you know what I'm saying, Sister Burt, you know, people like Clemson Brown, you know what I'm saying, and I want you to speak about what was consciousness prior to what we're talking about in terms of the quote-unquote Renaissance. You know, what vehicle was being utilized to get this information to the people? You know what I'm saying? They had street vendors. They were selling VHSs at that time. There were lectures that were being done, you know, people's apartment and the back of stores and things of that nature. You know, can you speak about what was the sense of quote-unquote community stronger in your eyes when it was done like that, when you can actually touch the people?
Well, you just tickled me when you said VHS because I remember that. It's my funny bone when I hear that. You know, it's just funny. But brother, I can go all the way back to Noble Drew Ali and way back, you know. But as far as in my lifetime, Phil is probably one of the, as far as speaking goes, is probably the earliest. Outside of C. Freeman L., of course. C. Freeman L. was teaching, started around 82. Right. But Phil had his schools out in Brooklyn at his house, so he'll get into a lot of that with you. As far as me being behind the scenes, Big Man, a brother named Yusef, another brother named Timothy, and another brother named, I can't think of his name, hope he don't get mad at me right now. But we formed a group called Grassroots. And basically, most people are into the historical aspects. Oh, you know, let's bring in some historians to do some lectures. And then, you know, I said, well, let's activate this whole thing and change it up. And let's get, because Phil does some great work out of his house, let's get him to come start doing lectures. And let's get Bobby Hemmett and all of that. Now, Sister Burt was already dealing with Delbert Blair, Bobby Hemmett, and Blair goes back quite a way, too. Right. Probably just as far back as Phil, in a different way. But if we had to really say consciousness, the beginning of it had to maybe start with maybe like a Steve Coakley. You know, he kind of opened you up with the conspiracies. And then once the conspiracies took place, here come Phil, here come Bobby, with hearing that information, add that into what they know about metaphysics. And so it was just a real struggle, brother, but it was really good to see what comes out of that. And so now, you know, you could walk up and down Huntington Street, you might see anybody out there, you know, that's thinking for themselves now, hey, this is a way to disseminate information, do something spiritual, even if I don't know the stuff, and work for myself, because you're not going to get it working for anybody else, you know, so... It kind of like made jobs for people at the same time. Get off the plantation, that ain't it. Okay, so, but it took years to do that. Years and years to do that. And what was the question, brother, now? I'm sorry about that.
No, I just wanted you to speak of the sense of community, you know what I'm saying? Was it more so, because in this particular era, or this realm, this quote-unquote cyber realms, people have a vast following, but it's less community-orientated because these are not people that they're actually seeing, touching, breaking bread with, You know what I mean? People are not witnessing the blood, sweat, and the tears of what goes into the integral parts of putting something like this together.
And to be honest with you, brother, it seems almost exactly the same. It's just that the faces change. Some people graduate and move on, and then the faces, it's just that the faces change, but it's still basically the same energy. They elevate and go about their lives and move to, I know brothers that was, going to the lectures for years. Rev Phil at the Dempsey, moved to Germany and doing their own thing and so forth. And then young speakers come and new crowd, new face. So it's really a cycle. It didn't really change much. I mean, it's never really a community where we kind of like form a group and speak to each other in a way where let's you do that and I do this, whatever. It's more like once you gain that certain level of knowledge, you already knew how to do it yourself, and your spirits connect more so than your physical body. Meaning that
exactly.
I'll be up the block at the crown chakra, and inside I'll be down the block at the root chakra. We don't necessarily work together, but we do work together. You see?
Exactly.
All the other brothers that do the same thing in Queens now, I would never think of a vendor in Queens, Brooklyn, this way or that way. So the information is everywhere now, and you work together, but not really together. You know what I mean? So I've seen that. It definitely ballooned, no doubt about that. It definitely ballooned, especially with the advent of technology, with the DVDs and so forth.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because you're on the front line, you have many opportunities to meet many people and touch many people in a very unique way. As we mentioned on the last program that we had you on, there are people that will come from around the world to see Azariah, because Azariah has a selection of information that only Azariah has, and there are people come from around the world to come to see Sarnetta because there's information that only Sarnetta will have. There are people that come to see the red and blue.
And that's a beautiful thing, because Sarnetta, if he don't carry what they're looking for, he'll send them to me. And if I don't have what they're looking for, I send them directly to Sarnetta or whoever's out there. But he would be the first name I would mention, and then whoever other brothers they could see. So if I didn't have what they were looking for, it was always a referral system. That's what I mean by spirits connected, but not the physical aspect of ourselves don't connect, because we all got our own lives and all of that. But the spiritual aspects is something else controlling that, a bigger spirit that controls that whole situation. You see, so right. We refer each other. You don't even have to like a nigga or whatever. But I know he got this, because you don't want to place judgment on anything. Because when you place judgment on it, you really just placing judgment on yourself, and you stay away from it. I ain't going back there no more because of such and such. You just judge yourself because you're the one missing out. You understand? So you stay away from the judgment aspects of that, and it comes from the heart chakra. And it don't matter how you feel about me or him or that one, the referral still happens. The referral still happens.
Now, I want you to speak on how you had a chance encounter with the brother Black Dot. I want to segue into that.
Yeah, Dot is my man, bro. That's a really good spirited brother, him and his family, and I give a shout out to that brother. I'm just doing my vending I was way up in the Bronx. I was a Bronx vendor, and I was working behind the scenes. I had a job at the same time and all that, so it was like a side thing, just beginning with damn cassette tapes.
Wow.
Cassette tapes and shit. DVDs came later.
Yeah, VHSs came after the audio.
After the cassettes, right.
When I was in the Farrakhan, it was on cassette tapes. It wasn't even VHS.
Right. And my stand was a damn crate with a piece of cardboard or whatever. And them same pictures that Sarnetta had, I had all them burnings and all that, so it stopped people. They would stop and say, oh, shit, I ain't never seen no shit like that. Wow. And one day, Dot was driving by, he was driving a bus, because I was like in front of the bus stop. And he stopped and jumped out and said, what is this? And he was already conscious because he wouldn't have stopped. He stopped the whole damn bus. You know what I'm saying? Got off the bus and grabbed a few audios. And from that point on, the brother was just there. He was already there. I was just a newsstand where people get a magazine, you know. But it was a really pleasure to meet that brother. And then I kind of knew when I started meeting people like that this is the right path. This is the way it needs to go. And there are people out there that don't think I'm crazy. Then you got Brother Amir. You got the brother who did the. There's so many brothers that are just phased out of the whole consciousness. That Henry D. Bernardo was back then. Quite a few, my brother. Quite a few. And I can't sit here and try to remember all those names, but they are in my archives of my files. I got a book that I'm writing, and really a future book. Yeah.
We do want to pay homage to them. You know what I'm saying? Before we talk about this particular, renaissance of it, we want to also speak about those that came forth in that particular phase when getting the message through, the breakthrough probably was just a little bit tougher because the aid of technology wasn't there at that particular time. So, along comes the brother Black Dot. Black Dot, if you are on the line at this particular time, I ask that you press 1 because I don't want to tell your story for you. I want you to come in. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to let
the brother tell the story because I want to sit back and listen to this whole deal here, brother.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Caller from 917-239. You are on the line. Peace.
Peace.
Hey.
What's good?
What's up, brother? Yo, Chris, can you hear me?
What's going on, family?
Loud and clear. Peace to the God. Peace to the God.
What's up, God? What's up, bro?
Everything's good as the ride was good.
All right, good to hear from you, my brother.
Yes, sir. And I'm anxious to tell my portion of the story. You know what I mean? So let's get to it.
Yes, brother. I'm gonna kick back with my bottle of water, smoke my cigar, and listen to this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get off the line. I'm gonna let you do your thing.
All right, peace.
The baton is passed. You know what I'm saying? That is on you.
All right, let's get it. Some things Azariah spoke of is very critical. My era of coming into this particular movement of consciousness first and foremost started with Azariah. He was my Morpheus. Now, everybody has a Morpheus. Everybody has somebody that offers them an opportunity to travel in different ways and expand their consciousness, and there is literally no turning back. So in the movie, when Morpheus, apologized to Neo because they rarely free minds past a certain age not being a linear number, age being basically where your consciousness is, you know what I mean? So as I walked by, I was in full uniform. I drove most of the time in Brooklyn, but I think we were training up in that area. But as I walked past the brother's table, I walked by 10 tables prior to his, and everybody was selling me something, hawking me something. Yo, brother, you need, and it might have been anything, T-shirts. He's the only brother that said absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? That intrigued me to a certain degree. You know what I mean? I said, whoa, why is this brother? Because that particular information you don't hawk like that. You know what I mean? Sarnetta added that element in terms of just blowing the bullhorn and raising the vibration later on. But at that particular, because it's such a unique perspective of information. So I stopped, and I said, hey, brother, well, what you got here? You know what I mean? Now, flashback, I've always been conscious, as he spoke of. We've all always had some level of awareness, and I want to speak about this in particular because the first tape he gave me, it was the cassette tape, clearly was the Egyptian Mystery System by some brother named Bobby Hemmett. And before he gave it to me, he said, look, brother, man, this is deep. And, my ego kicked in. Man, I'm deep, because I was divine intelligent back in the days when I was in the, the nation of gods and earth. You couldn't tell me about deep. I knew the black man was God, you know what I'm saying, and so forth and so on, and so forth and so on. So I scooped up, and it changed my perspective of everything I thought I knew. You know what I mean? Right. But it was what I needed because it's real ironic that Bobby Hemmett was from South Carolina because my grandmother, who was an occultist, a high occultist in the South, was also from South Carolina, and he kind of not physically resembled her, but his energy was my grandmother coming back to me. Now, as a child, my grandmother would use me for some of these high rituals, so I was very accustomed to see entities and spirits and doors opening with nobody physically there. As a child, I was always accustomed to seeing those things. They were second nature to me. I suppressed that as I got older because people thought I was strange, people thought I was weird, and so forth and so on. So for years, I just suppressed that particular energy. It wasn't until I picked up that cassette that I felt that I was home, and I would be home for a very long time. All right, so shout out to, Sister Burt, Grassroots Production, as Azariah mentioned. But when I got there, I would come, I think, 94, 95, I started coming to the, lectures. So I'm a part of the last, before we had the Renaissance, I was able to bear witness the movement or the energy or the paradigm before. Now, as I got there, the one glaring thing for me was that I didn't see any young people. Yeah. I saw a lot of elders coming to the lectures, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, Sister Burton was putting it on, and they had their way of doing things, but I didn't see nobody that looked like me. So I started doing what we call music mixes, and Azariah can attest to this. I started adding music to bits and pieces of the lecture because I was from the hip-hop era. Hip-hop was my first love, so to speak. So as I began to do that and give them out to different people, I noticed that more young people were levitating, to that particular information. And I remember doing my first lecture in my house, me and my queen, with Henry D. Bernardo. After coming to a Henry lecture, we started bringing Henry D. Bernardo up from Philadelphia, and he would do these personal lectures in my living room because my living room was already set up like a classroom because me and my queen were teaching, inner city children within the neighborhood and tutoring them. So, and I always taught the X-Files. So while my wife taught reading and writing or math, my partner taught science, I taught the X-Files because I was getting this information for Bobby and Phil and them. So I started opening 9 and 10-year-old kids up to this particular information. And I might note, it was about 8 of them. They all got college degrees now. You know what I mean? So they all went on to do their own thing. So as I began to do these music mixes and, add a whole different element, that became part of seeding the next paradigm. But I'm not going to jump ahead because when Chris gets on, he became the focal point of what eye-opener would become. So I'm just trying to give you some of my backstory and me bearing witness to the paradigm before me and me taking that template because Chris and them didn't know what they were doing in terms of the structure. But because I had saw the structure and how it goes, I just implemented what I knew.
Right. No, absolutely. Please do continue. You know what I'm saying? At some point, I'm going to segue where we met. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we can connect the dot and show, how we got to our opener. So that's on you. You could continue.
Okay. So I began to travel, hear each lecturer one at a time from their perspective. And the one thing that was very crucial for me is that most of the so-called conscious community, and I put up my quotations when I say community because I love the way Azariah expressed that, consciousness moves beyond barriers. We weren't dealing with any religion. You know what I'm saying? You could come as who you were to these particular events, and I thought it was critical because I didn't want to prejudge. I didn't want to, if you was in the Nation of Islam, no disrespect, you had a certain demeanor that you had to carry in a certain doctrine. I could come as who I was, even if I was religious, and still get information. And the way Bobby Hemmett taught was critical because he reminded me of a brother on the corner. You know what I mean? He reminded me, he cursed, he talked shit, he was very funny, he was very enlightening. You know what I'm saying? He was very spiritual and knew what he taught. The way he taught was critical because I would adapt that particular concept when I decided to step off into showing the dynamics of this within hip-hop. All right? Bruce Lee said knowledge is nothing, knowledge applied is everything. So I was trying to take the knowledge that I learned and apply it to my everyday life, which was hip-hop. Simple, plain and put. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to apply that knowledge to hip-hop. You can apply that knowledge to playing basketball if you understand the principles of it, because everything is everything. So the way I began to speak of hip-hop, and these would be long conversations that I would just be having with people I knew. You know what I'm saying? No big deal. But the way I was speaking on it was different than what most people were speaking on it, and that's beyond Africa Bambaataa, beyond the almond rock. You see what I'm saying? Because he opened up a porthole that people weren't ready for. Let's just be real. You know what I'm saying? People weren't ready for the way Africa Bambaataa was through his music and through his consciousness. A lot of the hip-hop community wasn't ready for, so he was considered a spaced out cadet or something. You know what I'm saying? KRS brought the philosophical aspects, you know what I'm saying, in 86. But from a metaphysical perspective, that's just the way I saw it because that's the way I was taught. Now, I got behind the scenes early, you know, in terms of doing these lectures, you know, and got up close to Azariah. I would see him sometimes 3 times a week, you know what I'm saying, because I just couldn't turn off that particular information. And he just kept the information coming in different aspects. I remember I bought the whole C. Freeman Arrow. He did the astrology lectures, and I would go and buy, because I was working for transit, you know what I'm saying, so the money was no problem. I'd come through and buy give me all that. And one significant point is I was the first one to transfer the lectures from cassette to CD. Me and my queen had bought a CD burner, and I remember when I pulled up to Azariah's crib and showed it to him, he was like, wow. So that was, again, just helping to move it, you know, from one era and one stage to another. Now, when it got to DVD, that was Sarnetta and some other people that, you know, moved that, but to remove the order, because we didn't have visuals unless you was at the lecture. And I do want to add, coming to the lectures was significant for me because you got a chance to feel the lecture. I had already bought so many Bobby Hemmett tapes and heard his information, but when I physically sat down to hear him teach, the energy was totally different. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was able to feel his spirit. So that's what was critical for me, as opposed to a lot of the internet era where you just kind of, you know, listening and watching. I've always said that when it came to just the magical moment was the lecture. Like, the black dot of the whole thing was the actual lecture, because that's where the magic really happened. You know what I mean? That's when you got to see, that's when you really understood that this was a real organic, living, spiritual movement, from the energy that came when everybody came in the building to the energy that the speakers gave off. Just the whole environment was powerful. You know what I mean? And it made you feel like this was something bigger than these small rooms that we were gathering in. Exactly. And like I said, it was critical because a lot of people are not ready for this type of information. So the internet, just moving forward a little bit, kind of opened the floodgates, and people were being hit with information that they really wasn't ready to process. Whereas if you came to the lecture, even if you didn't understand something, and you took the lecture home, even when it was this VHS tapes, the only people you were going to invite to watch that with you were people of a similar vibration. So then y'all can open up discussions about, I don't believe that, or we could do this and that. The internet just gives any nigga with internet access the ability to log on, and when he hears something that's way beyond his pay grade, mentally or spiritually, that's when all the niggerism kicked in, and people behind the scenes, anonymous, oh, that's some bullshit, And that's when we entered in the realm of a little bit of chaos. I believe eventually it's going to work itself out, but the close-knit aspect of so-called conscious, and let me big up every conscious community that we may not have known about. You know what I mean? We're speaking from our point of the Black Dot and us opening, every, people who were doing their own thing that may not have received credit. We want to make sure we throw that out into the record, that there are those who didn't have a movement per se, but they understood that something was wrong and they needed to, seek out information.
Absolutely.
Now, let me add this one last point as it a segue into me and you. Once that particular paradigm died out, you know what I'm saying? There was very few and far lectures. People stopped doing lectures for whatever reason. I still was stuck, or not so-called stuck, but I still had this information within me, and I needed to find a way to get it out. And I met a young sister who told me she was writing for some newspaper in Brooklyn, some small upbeat newspaper called Four Corners. And, I took interest to that, and, that's when me and your story segues in from there.
I'm not being biased to the situation, but I always like to think that was the game changer, because Four Corners where a lot of worlds converge. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If not for that particular vehicle, I don't know if we were doing, would we be doing what we're doing to the level of which we're doing it, because Four Corners afforded us the freedom to say, one, we can do and say what we want, and two, there's an audience out there, even though if we don't physically see them with the eyes, our sales reflected it.
Yes.
At the time that we were putting that newspaper in the corner store bodegas, right, through self-distribution, everything we did with Four Corners, a hip-hop newspaper which came out in August 2001, a month before 9/11, everything we did with that paper, family, was independent and funded from our own pocket. So sales, distribution, advertisement, production, the actual writing of the paper, editing, everything. You know what I'm saying? Taking the pictures, going to the parties, meeting the rappers, forging the relationships with the labels.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it was little old lust against the industry, because we were telling the story that BET got paid not to say, that MTV got paid not to say, that all hip-hop and SOHH didn't have the access to get at that time. Internet it was obsolete. It didn't really exist. They had internet sites. What those sites were good for was sending alerts to people's phones. That's how they became popular, because they would be like, oh, yeah, this came to my two-way from something called All Hip Hop. But Negroes didn't know how to get on the internet then, so it wasn't a viable option. Four Corners was a vehicle that was able to correct those stories that would come out as flashing news, as breaking news, because often they would be wrong. We had the inside scoop, you know what I'm saying? We had access to the rappers or the industry, so we would get the real story, put the articles together, have it in the corner bodegas. We sold 85% of our paper that was on the stand, as opposed to, they was like, look, Daily News only sells 15%, and we got to give back 85. They said, y'all sell 85, and we got to give back 15. So every store wanted Four Corners, and Four Corners was a staple based on what it was we was doing, but we took off once we added this special contributing writer named the Black Dot. And the Black Dot will come with these out-of-this-world stories. He had his own particular way, and everyone that has read The Matrix of Hip-Hop, those excerpts were in the paper at first. So this was the first time that people were getting insight onto the perspective of how the game was being played. You know what I'm saying? Worded in such a way. There are many times that people will be on the corner and try to articulate it verbally, but never was it written. Outside of maybe, I would say, Bones Malone's. What Bones Malone's used to do with the Source, you know what I'm saying, that was comparable to to what I could say I was reading what you was doing with Four Corners. Because Bones for Loans used to make those connections, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, me and Dot was kicking it, and at the time, I had got a VHS from a brother named Infinity in Phoenix, right? Phoenix and Infinity. Infinity was a dread. He used to sell VHSs on Tilden in Flatbush, right next to where the Bally's is at now. Family, anybody live in Flatbush, right? So the very first joint that I got from him was a VHS with Valentine breaking down X-Men.
Yeah, okay? I remember that.
He was breaking down X-Men. Now, again, I had been raised since a youth by my father to say, look, all movies are subliminal. You got to look for the subliminal messages in movies. And as a person that grew up, you know, we grew up on comic books. We had an ill collection. So I always wanted to hear more perspective on the movie X-Men. Valentine was able to do that. So the fact that I saw an elder doing that and utilizing our language, you know what I'm saying, I thought, you know, like that was the best thing since sliced bread. So my hunger grew to access more information of that particular type in my search, right? I think JP might have even been the one to be like, because JP was 5%er. He was God body, and he wasn't trying to hear nothing. Until 120. Remember, right? We would have showdowns in the meeting room with homie trying to explain anything that don't fit at 120. He just wasn't trying to hear it. So he knew Shabazz, because Shabazz knew Jizza or what have you, and I think he had a connection to Jizza, what have. So he was like, yeah, it's a God body downtown Brooklyn, and I think got some of them VHSs. So I ended up going down to Brooklyn, right, down to DeKalb Avenue, and this is where I met Shabazz. He was on the corner, right, and he was selling a gang of that wasn't DVDs, but VHSs at that particular time. And he had a lot of stuff from Phil, he had stuff from Bobby, but it wasn't along the lines of what I was looking for. It was metaphysical, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, that shit gonna give me a headache, you know what I'm saying? That's not really what I'm looking for. I want to get something that's along the lines of entertainment or hip-hop, because we were in the industry. So, lo and behold, you know, he was like, look, man, you should just come to one of these lectures, you know what I'm saying? He put me on to a lecture that Big Man was having. So Big Man and them started throwing lectures uptown. Like you said, when I went to the lecture, I was the only one there under 40. Okay? And they were talking very high metaphysics at that particular time for, you know, for my deciphering and understanding. They were sending me home with headaches. Like my head would literally be split, and it would take 2 or 3 days for my brain to refragment itself, to absorb the information, push out the BS that I had been programmed with, and put back them gems, you know what I'm saying, that he was dropping. So, with all that being said, the brother A.A. Rashid was incarcerated at this particular time. Now, we all had came up together doing what it is that we do. And consciousness or awareness is something that everyone had access to. We were raised around it. You know what I'm saying? We were raised in it. We had access to it in the street. The big homies, you know what I'm saying, had information that they was passing down. Everybody knew somebody that either was a 5%er or was dealing with York in some particular way. So you had tablets, you know what I'm saying? People had that in their back pockets. You know what I mean? Every now and then you catch somebody with a 5% newspaper in their back pocket. So the information was there. You know what I mean? And Rashid had introduced me to one of his right hands at that particular time named Brother Chris, or who we affectionately refer to as Christ. Once I started getting hold of this particular information, and me and Rashid were always scribing one another back and forth, and he started telling me, look, I'm doing Kabbalah now, I'm studying this, I'm studying that, which forced me to do my research to actually stay on level with that particular conversation. When I started getting in contact with what Valentine was saying and how it related to what Rashid was saying, especially it's a lecture that he did on tetragrammatons, you know what I'm saying, and especially after 9/11 when he did the mathematics of the beast and all of that, and he started going into the spirit of Scorpio, okay, and that meaning, the meaning of Iraq relating to the spirit of Scorpio and the Ruach and all of those things. I was like, whoa, I need both of them to be on the same page, because I know the information that he is deciphering or bringing to the world, I'm understanding that Rashid will be able to filter it because of his level of studies. And he started doing what he had to do on his side of the wall to make it possible for a meeting between them two to take place. And in the meantime, in between time, again, I don't want to speak for Chris. I want him to tell his story, but I'm just going to paraphrase it as I remember it. Him being in the street and being, he already had his, he had his collection. His collection was kind of thorough as well, because he had came from an Ansar background. So the cataloging of information was already in his veins. You know what I'm saying? He had his connection through Camor. He was getting fed VHSs through Camor. And I also had that connection or that access through Camor by way of the earlier version of the Moorish Heritage classes I used to go to in Harlem that were helmed by the elder Brother Amir. Okay, shout out to Brother Amir.
Saw him yesterday.
Enlightened
Shout out Amir.
many of people in New York where he was bringing. Shout out to Brother Matea. Shout out to Brother Sharif, who were also instrumental in the earlier parts of the 2000s with disseminating information that now you can find on the status on Facebook. This shit was not to be found nowhere else but on the underground at this particular time for the right reasons as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm one that firmly believes everything ain't for everyone. Sorry. You know? So with the brother Chris, you know, what Chris wanted to do was he wanted to make this information more accessible to his homies, you know what I'm saying, to his ilk, to people in our age group, and thus started the inquiries where he was like, look, man, I got the bread to bring Valentine in. That was like, look, this is something that I need to, you know, this needs to happen as well. The common denominator between those two things was me saying, look, I'm going to introduce you to Brother Shabazz because he knows he got a direct line to Valentine. And that can, you know what I'm saying, like, what you're talking about is just not a fantasy. We can make it a reality. Lo and behold, that introduction took place, and then voila. What you have now, what we know now as eye-opener production, you know what I'm saying, was able to take form, and his birth date on record is December 21st, 2002. Is that correct from how you remember it, my brother?
That is correct how I remember it, except I remember Christ calling me, he'll explain, and I think I had Phil's number because I had been going to the lectures. However, I want to say this before we bring Brother Chris on. It's very important that we understand it from his perspective because he stays so much behind the scenes that he actually appears anonymous to the so-called conscious community as we know it now. Now, I can walk in a conscious lecture and I can get VIP treatment because most people remember me because I always was in front of the camera. You know what I mean? Shabazz was on the front line on the street, you know, dealing with the people hand to hand. So he became, you know, noted and, you know, so forth and so on. And every now and then he would come in front of the camera. Christ is the only one that never came in front of the camera. You know what I'm saying? I know probably due to his work and the position we put him in at the lecture. We put him at the door so that money was right. You know what I mean? He was a businessman. You know what I mean? If I walked the door, I'm going to be honest, I let everybody think, oh, come on in. Christ was about the business of structuring and make sure that this went right. So, you know, just want to add that people may not be familiar when we speak of Chris or Christ. So I think this is very important that we bring him in and allow him to speak to the people in his own words.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. Let me go and see if our brother's with us at this particular time. I believe this is him on the line. Let me check and see. Caller from the 347-451. 451 caller. Peace. Hold on 1 second. Caller from the 347-451. Give me 1 second. My board is acting up a little bit.
All right.
451, peace.
Shout out to Brother Shabazz.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Peace. What's good, my brothers? How y'all doing, man?
What's good?
Y'all got to pardon me first off. I'm driving, you know what I'm saying, right now, so I'm on the highway. So, you know, please forgive the cell phone, you know, sound and activity. You know, I'm trying to get off at my exit so I could, you know, at least y'all don't have to hear the background noise and all that.
You good?
Good. You good,
all right. Yeah, man. Yeah, I was listening, man. I tried to catch as much as I could, you know, just came out of the vocation, so, you know, I'm here, man, and I'm definitely feeling, you know, the whole, you know, this is something that you and I, Blue Pill, talked about a couple of months ago, you know, putting together a show where, you know, we would document, you know, the history of the metaphysical renaissance, you know, the underground consciousness movement. And like I said, you know, I place myself so far, you know, underground within my own movement that, you know, a lot of people didn't recognize, you know, my conscience. And I'm not ego-tripping right now, you know what I'm saying, because I purposely put myself, you know, out of the sight. You know what I mean? Like, if you remember Wu-Tang first album, Ghostface didn't reveal his face till after the second album. You know what I mean? You know, he used to wear a mask all the time, so I kind of was like that. You know what I mean? You know, where I didn't, you know, feel it was necessary for me to be seen or heard. You know, and you know, a lot of that had to do with because I was shy at the time. You know what I mean? You know, if Doc can remember our first lecture that we did with Brother Valentine, you know, me, Shabazz, and myself, you know, didn't even want to introduce Phil in front of the camera because we both were camera shy. And Doc stepped up and said, well, shit, y'all niggas are scared, I'll do it. You know what I mean? You know, and Doc got on that mic and he rocked out. You know what I'm saying? You know, so, you know, that's all good. But, yeah, man, I appreciate Brother Azariah breaking down, you know, the history of the movement prior to the 2002 movement, as I call it, as Shabazz and I coined that phrase earlier. I spoke to Shabazz. Shout out to Brother Shabazz. He couldn't make it tonight on the show. You know, I spoke to him earlier. He said, you know, he had things to do, late class and all that. He, you know, so much to do tonight. So, you know, I told him that this really wouldn't be a show without him and his contributions. But, you know, I told him I'd hold it down for him. You know, I thank Black Dot for being here. You know what I mean? It's my partner in crime. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
You know, my homie. You know, my brother. You know what I mean? And, you know, we definitely going to try to put this thing to where it needs to be. You know what I mean? Because I feel as though, you know, now is the time, you know, for me to lay it down. I mean, Rev Valentine told me years ago that I should document this movement. And at the time, I just, you know, I yelled him to death and told him I would do it. And I never did it. You know what I mean? Here we are, maybe 6-7 years later, and I'm finally doing it. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Blue Pill and Red Pill for even having this show, this monumental show, and allowing this thing to be documented properly. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we need. You know, we need everybody to be giving credit where credit is due. You know what I mean? Because if we don't tell our history, somebody else will tell it for us, and they'll rewrite us right out of it. You know what I'm saying? And all of us. So we got to lay it down. You know, we have to lay it down the way it happened. And each one of us will be the contributors to, if I forget something, then Doc will be there to correct it. If Doc forgets something, then, you know, I'll do it, a Blue Pill. You know what I mean? You know, and things of that nature, you know. So, you know, I definitely appreciate y'all having me on and, you know, and allowing me to tell my story. You know what I mean? Finally. You know, I'm still not a face to everybody listening, but, you know, now I'm a voice. You know what I mean? You know, I'm still not a face to everybody listening.
Yes, indeed.
Somebody has to turn their speaker phone off in the background.
Yeah, the speaker phone.
Yeah.
All right, we good.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All right.
What I want, you know, like I said, I can't tell your story. You know what I'm saying? I can only add bits and pieces as it relates to all of us as a collective. But I want you to tell your story. You know what I'm saying? As it applies to what got you here and what kept you here.
All right. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I like the way everybody was telling their story, so I'm going to go along the lines of that. I'm going to try to, you know, keep it simple and not, you know, bore anybody with a long story. But, you know, just growing up in New York, you know, coming as a teenager, Nation of Gods and Earth, coming into the NOI after that as a late teen, early 20, then getting involved with the, you know, the Ansarullah community in the late 80s into the 90s, all the way up to the Nuwabic school, all the way to 98. And then I left, you know, that school of thought, and I started branching out and trying to reach out to the Afrocentric community, you know, from like 98 up until the early 2000s. You know, I wanted to, you know, explore the Afrocentricity, the Kemetic school of thought, you know, all things that had to do with Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, things I wasn't really too familiar with because, you know, I was under, you know, York for so long. And so I was out there for a few years just trying to get my hands on any books or any type of conscious information that I could find. Now, I'm not a product of the lecture community, unlike Black Dot and a lot of others. So when I got my first tape of Rev Valentine, Dr. Phil Valentine, I think it was early, maybe late 2001 or early 2002, from a brother I worked with at the time, and it was Mathematics of the Beast, you know, part 2, when he was breaking down the whole 9/11 thing, man. When I saw that just blew my mind, you know what I mean? Because here it is, you know, I'm looking for something that was equivalent information-wise or something as deep as what, you know, because everybody that was in the Nuwabic school of thought knew Dr. York. I mean, he was the deepest person on the planet, according to, you know, any Nuwabian at the time. So even though I left the teachings, I had to find somebody that would measure up to that. So when I finally came across Phil, I was like, oh, shit, this guy's just, you know what I mean, just like, you know, a light-skinned version of Dr. York. You know what I mean? So I said, you know, and that Mathematics of the Beast Part 2, where he broke down the 9/11 situation, that just, I was sold at that point. So at that point, you know, in 2002, I was looking for all the Phil Valentine tapes I can get. You know what I mean? I started searching high and low, and I was getting them from a brother in Staten Island. You mentioned him earlier, Blue Pill, named Kamor. Now, Brother Kamor was he was a videographer or a vendor in his own right out there in Staten Island. He actually sold the conscious community lecture VHSs at the time because everybody had VHSs. So, you know, I would go to him, and I would find as many Phil tapes as I can get. And what he didn't have, he directed me and told me to go check a brother in Harlem named Sonetta up on 125th Street. So I was traveling up to 125th Street trying to check Sonetta and, you know, see what Valentine tapes he had, because at the time, that's all I really wanted was Valentine tapes. I didn't really care for any of the other lecturers at the time because, to me, you know, I was just stuck on heavy, hard information. You know, the more complex and the more bigger the words were, that's what I wanted. And, you know, Phil gives you all of that. He gives you those, you know, those deep concepts. So I got all the Valentine I could get out of this. Yeah, he makes you go study. And being a former Nuwapian at the time, you know, it was like, that's what I needed. I needed something that, you know, that was so deep that, you know, it'll keep me out there in space. You know what I'm saying? That's what Phil had me with the light code transmissions and all that. You know, he was going in, you know what I mean? So there was none other, you know, like him. So, like I said, I even traveled to, you know, when they used to do the Dempsey in Harlem, I would go out there. Azariah would have his little table set up outside. You know, I would ask him if he had any Valentine tapes. You know what I mean? Like, you know, everybody, I was trying to find Valentine. So, long story short, yeah, you know, Brother AA told me to contact the Blue Pill because it was a time where I saw a lecture. I think it was, it might have been Light Code Transmissions. I think when I finished watching that in my house one day, you know, at that point when that lecture went off, I just said, oh, shit. Like, I was so, as soon as it went off, I was just like, my Pioneer was on fire, man. Like, I was just like, yo, this dude is the truth. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, I got to get him to do a lecture. Because I actually saw him. Yeah.
Did you used to get the migraine behind your eye, like when you was going in with the field tapes?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. I was going through a whole bunch of changes, man, like the migraine,
Okay.
Because the information was new to me. I never heard anybody talk about star codes and, you know what I mean, and the melanin, the way that he broke it down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And our connection to the interstellar, bodies like that, you know what I mean? I was always, taught a little differently in the other school of thought, but this brother right here, man, I was like, yo, I got to get him, because I watched the tape that he did, and shout out to the brothers who I know y'all probably mentioned this earlier, Azariah mentioned it, but, the brothers that came before me, and I always have to call other people's names out because it's not just about me. It's, the brother Big Man who did a few lectures back in the day that I got his tape. Shout out to Azariah who actually filmed, Phil before. Just Clemson Brown, Transatlantic Productions, he filmed. He's like one of the probably the premier, what I mean, videographer out of everybody. A lot of people don't know who Clemson Brown is.
Exactly. Clemson Brown will have your video ready the minute you finish your lecture.
Yeah,
he had the Nation of Islam technology where he'll record you and it'll be ready on the spot. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So his archives and his contribution is monumental. You know what I mean? He was truly a legend. And he's still doing it to this day. And he also was the reason why, watching his tape, because that was the first time I actually saw Phil being interviewed one-on-one. I used to see him in classroom settings or in lecture type settings where he would be in the auditorium speaking. And when I saw him on the one-on-one interviews, I think Dark Matter Paradigm, Transformation to a Dark Matter Paradigm, I think if I can remember, my memory's a little shot right now, but I think that was a one-on-one interview. So I noticed that Phil was doing lectures in front of a lot of people, and he also was doing one-on-one interviews. So I said, well, shit, maybe I can get, Phil to do an interview, with just me and a couple of group of my closest friends, my conscious friends at the time. You know what I mean? Yeah, I got the bread. I see how much he want to do it. You know what I mean? Because this brother was deep. I wanted other brothers to hear what this brother was saying, So I contacted Blue Pill. Shout out to Blue Pill for being the first point of contact, you know what I'm saying, who put me in connection. And Four Corners, shout out to Four Corners, JP, Rikers, everybody down at Four Corners, man, because that's where everything went down. That's where all the planning went down right there. You know what I mean? So when Blue Pill contacted Black Dot, he said, yeah, my boy Dot knows Phil. You know what I mean? I get, Dot on it. Dot got Phil's number, whatever. So I said, all right, so contact your man Black Dot. You know what I mean? So Black Dot right away, professional as he is, he was right on it. He wasn't BSing. He got on it, contacted Phil, told me don't worry about it. Things is in the mix, so, we good to go. So I was like, all right. So, I'm going to try to do this small little lecture, I guess a small little in-house setting. So at the time, what happened? I think also Blue Pill put me in contact with Shabazz downtown, told me that there was a brother downtown Brooklyn named Shabazz that was selling tapes too. And I didn't even know that. And I was in Brooklyn, my own backyard. I used to go up to Harlem and all the other places and didn't even know Shabazz was downtown right on Nevin Street selling these tapes. So I went down there and saw Shabazz, and I bought as much Phil as I can get. And Shabazz told me, yeah, I do, I'm a videographer, I film, and I know Phil too. I know him too. And I said, well, shit, I'm trying to get him to, do something for me. And he said, well, shit, I'll film it. I'll contact him. I'll film it too. So I had Shabazz on it too, so Black Dot and Shabazz on it at the same time. So Dot gave me the number. I think gave Twin Blue Pill the number to give to me, and I think I called Phil because Phil is not,
Hold on, God. What I did was I called Phil first.
You called Phil,
yeah. I was letting him know it was a brother who was in the corrections facility, and I just had to prep him that this wasn't going to be the normal dude that usually puts on lectures to get his feel. But I told him, I said, nah, these are my peoples. Even though I hadn't physically met you yet, I knew Blue Pill. You know what I mean? I said, nah, these are my peoples. I want you to know this is all good. So he said, all right, you know what? Give the brother my number.
Yeah. And anybody that knows Phil knows that if he don't know you, he ain't messing with you. You know what I'm saying? Phil, he look at you with one eyebrow up like The Rock in a minute. You know what I mean? Like, who is you? You know what I'm saying? And Phil is not easy to get in contact. You know, and I don't blame him. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of, we don't know what goes on out here. You know what I mean? So, I was waiting for you gave me the number. Yeah, you called Phil, and I think, did you give me his number, or did you give him my number?
I gave you his number.
All right, yeah, I called him. I left a message with Phil. Now, Phil called me back, and I never forget the day Phil called me back. I was in the supermarket, and Phil called me. I'm shopping in the aisle, and next thing on my phone ring, I don't know the number. I answer it. It's Phil. It's Valentine. I'm like, oh, shit, I can't tell him I call him back. I'm in the middle of the aisle, getting interviewed now, because Phil is interviewing me on the phone now. He's like, well, yeah, the brother told me, blah, blah, blah. Tell me a little bit about yourself and, what it is you want. So I'm standing in the middle of the aisle in the crowded ass supermarket talking about, well, brother, I'm so-and-so, and I want to do a lecture with you, and, this is what I want to bring forward. My mission, is to try to keep it small, something intimate. And then Phil, I guess, in his mind, he was like, yo, we going to, they haven't really been doing lectures in New York. Everybody know, like Doc said earlier, the lectures were far and few in between at that time, between 99 and 2002. It might be one lecture here and there. It wasn't really too many lectures going on. So, lo and behold, I'm talking to Phil, about how much it's going to cost to get him to do a lecture and how much he charges. And once he said what his honorarium was, I was like, okay, this is going to be bigger than just me in the room with a few of my homies. I got to bring in some help now. You know what I mean? Because, Phil, he was serious about his stuff. So I said, all right, Phil, I called him, told him I'd call him back, and I contacted Shabazz, and I think I contacted you, Dot, again, and I told you, that how much Phil wanted, and I told Blue Pill how much he wanted, and, how we're going to do this, and now it's time to get the place and all that, and that's when the ball started getting rolling. And I forgot who suggested Fort Greene Senior Citizen Center, but that was the first place that we did our first lecture.
It might have been me because I had been down there before, and I had known he'd done lectures there. And I knew I was going to, our coming together was not planned. I want the people to know that. I was in the audience just as a spectator. I had bought my equipment out.
You brought your equipment out.
Right, I had bought some speakers just as a contribution, but I was just going to sit down and enjoy the lecture.
Okay, so you know what it was? It was me, Blue Pill. I'm sorry, I'm messing the story up. It was me, Blue Pill, Shabazz, and Kamor. The four of us, because Kamor at the time, Brother Kamor, shout out to Brother Kamor, he's out of the country now, visiting them pyramids down in Mexico. But he had a thing called First Eye Productions that was going on at the time.
Yes.
And Kamor actually was on board financially because everybody knows that, these lectures don't go on if you don't have any money. You know what I mean? Let's be clear. Then that's, we'll touch on that later on. But so Kamor, Shabazz, myself, and Blue Pill were instrumental in trying to get this thing going. So we came up with the place. I think Doc did introduce us to the Fort Greene Senior Citizen Center. But now we had to work on the flyers. We had to work on the promotion. We had to get the vendors to come in because, all of these things help pay for the fees. The rental fee for the venue that you're using. You got to pay the lecturer. So, we had to cover all these bases. So all these things were going on now. We set up a date. I think it was Shabazz that actually came up with the date of December 21st, 2002. He said, let's do it on the winter solstice.
Yes.
And so, the ball was rolling. So Phil is on board. I'm excited. I remember Phil asking me, well, what it is, what do you want me to talk about? I said, well, I don't do what you do. I wanted to hear some deep metaphysics, so I didn't really care. So Phil came up with the title, Raw, Real, and Relative. That was the title of our first lecture, folks. Everybody out there. And let me be clear also, Eye Opener Productions was already in motion before this. Shabazz started Eye Opener Productions in the 80s. Started out as a book vendor. He used to sell books on the street. You know what I mean? And in the 90s, 99, he started selling VHS tapes with Sarnetta and Brother Sahu. You know what I mean? And then, already had Eye Opener Productions, so we came under that banner. As myself and Shabazz came under the banner of Eye Opener Productions for the first lecture, and Brother Kamor was First Eye Production. So it was two production companies that made it possible for us to have Phil come in to do our first lecture. So we had two people filming that day. So
do you remember you remember what time the actual lecture was scheduled for? Normally, probably 2 o'clock. Does anybody have any
it's safe to say, 2 or 3 o'clock, because it was an afternoon start.
Okay.
Yeah, it was always afternoon. You know, I don't even remember what day was that. Doc, you remember the day? Paul,
I don't remember the actual. I'm willing to bet it was a Saturday or Sunday, because that template was already in place. We did lectures on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, first we started out doing lectures on Saturdays, and then we moved to Sundays.
Right.
I remember that. Yeah, down the line. So, yeah, we did that probably Saturday, December 21st, 2012. And, it was a Saturday. And when we did it, man, it was, you know, man, like I said, man, it was great. Like, you know, we came in, you know, I had got a few of my friends from the neighborhood to work the door at the time. You know, this was my first time. I never knew anything about doing a lecture before. This is my first time. I mean, I went head first into it. You know what I mean? I ain't even stick my feet in the shallow water. I dove deep in the deep water. You know what I mean? Straight up. So, you know, and Shabazz, he wasn't really, like I said, he was a street soldier. You know, they were vending, you know, at the time. So he never really actually promoted a lecture before. You know what I mean? So this was new to me and Shabazz. You know what I'm saying? And the Blue Pill and the Kamor too, because we never really did actual lectures before. You know what I mean? So, but if everyone can remember, it was a success because there was a lot of people that came out. We had a lot of vendors there. You know, it was a great turnout. It was a great lecture. You know, and like I said, man, when we came in, like, you know, Doc, like Black Doc is always stepped up to the plate. This brother is a great brother. Everybody that knows Doc knows that he's a great brother. Because, I mean, not only did he lend us his equipment, he also contributed financially. Now, he was there as a spectator. He was sitting in the crowd. You know, like I said, he was there, you know, connected together. Yeah, give it up to Doc.
Absolutely.
You know.
I mean, just you know, for the family that doesn't have the opportunity, the great opportunity to know this brother, this is like, it's like a dude your father will look up to. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the level of, you know, when Dot is around, you know everything's going to be all right. I've never been in a situation where things fell into tatters and you know, Dot stood by. So he just brought that level of calmness to a situation where you know that you're in the right place doing the right thing because Dot is sticking around. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Dot is the old soul in a young body, man, I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Brother, man, I mean, the way he stepped up that day, I mean, coming from the Bronx, you know what I mean, bringing down speakers and microphones and giving us money. Here, this is just y'all towards the lecture. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we didn't even ask him. He offered it, gave it to us. You know what I mean? You know, and that meant a lot. You know what I mean? To me and Shabazz, we looked at that like, wow, like, damn, you know, this brother is a good brother. You know what I mean? Like, he just, you know, blessed us. You know, we did the lecture, and after that day, now, this is where the conscious renaissance begins, because guess what? Now, after Phil's lecture goes over so well, now the word is getting spread around throughout the country to the other speakers. So who all of a sudden now Shabazz's phone ring one day, a couple months later, it's Brother Bobby Hemmett on the phone calling Shabazz. Like, yo, you know, what's up, brother? I'm Bobby Hemmett, blah, blah, blah. I heard y'all doing lectures. Y'all gonna bring me in or what to New York? So Shabazz was like, yeah, like, you know, I'll bring you in, you know what I mean?
Chris,
remember that,
I want to pause there for a second, because prior to that, me, you, and Shabazz went out to eat. You know what I'm saying? And we decided, I remember, that, you know, if we was going to do this, let's go out like men, let's go sit down, and let's form this particular production company.
Right.
I don't know if that happened after the Bobby lecture or before, but I know before
it happened after, because Shabazz and I, it happened after that because Shabazz and I had a conversation. Because you were always there. I mean, remember, you know, I don't want to jump the gun, but we were going from Fort Meade Center Fort Greene Senior Citizen Center over to Brown Chocolate Cafe. We started doing lectures there, and you were always coming through as the unofficial, you know what I mean, member, you know, like I said, always contributing financially, and not giving no little small amount. I mean, that was coming up with, you know, with a couple of big faces, you know what I mean, and some change like, here, y'all hold that. This is to help y'all. You know what I mean? So Shabazz and I had a conversation on our own, like, yo, this brother Dot, man, is a great brother. We need to, you know, put him down with the team officially, make him an eye-opener member at the time, you know, officially. So we had asked you, Dot, you know, we like, you know, how you roll, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, would you be a member of the organization, the group? You was like, yeah, no doubt. You know what I mean? So that's how I remember it going down.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? You know, and after that, man, we were on the roll. You know, but I don't, like I said, Bobby was the next person that contacted us after. But did we, now, I can't remember, man. I told you my memory was so shot. Did we do Phil again before we did Bobby, or did we do Bobby second?
It slips me again at the moment as well, but I know we did both of them within the next 2 lectures. You know what I'm saying? It was either Bobby Phil or Phil again because of the response from that particular lecture, and then Bobby, and then from there the rest is what it was. I mean, we were getting calls from all type of lecturers from all over the country. I mean, people that we sort of admired and looked up to now were calling us because things had dried up so much on the so-called conscious, you know, community.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
I want to do this in spectacular fashion. You know, I want to kind of like mimic that whole feeling of what the brother Chris just explained to us about, you know, bringing Phil in and not anticipating and knowing where things was going to go, and the master teacher pretty much taking his position and doing the masterful job. I want to go and open the line and bring the master teacher in now.
Yeah.
Let him, you know, be the audience, you know what I'm saying, with his masterful students. So, with no further ado, caller from the 646-22-0. Peace.
Hotep family, Hotep, my beloved
Hotep. Hotep. What's going on, Brother Phil?
Hey. Hold on, you know you're getting early honors. Give me 1 second. Here it goes. Read it.
The big
Peace,
bang.
Brother Phil.
How you doing, brother? How's everybody doing today?
Man, wonderful.
Yeah, just hearing your voices brings me back to those days when we were resuscitating. We had got the cardiac resuscitator that, you know, clear.
Yeah, the chest is jumping. But Phil, I have to say this before you go on. I just want to let the world know, and everybody that's listening, this is going down in the archives. If it was not for you, Dr. Phil Valentine, that this conscious community now, all of you young people that are in it, you know, that are wilding out on YouTube, and all you self-appointed lecturers that are out there now, and conscious renegades, and all these people, whoever you think you are, whatever faction. If it wasn't for Phil Valentine, unless there was another phenomenon in the universe that would have created a door for this conscious community to be where it is today, none of y'all would be doing what y'all are doing now. I'm not trying to say that there wouldn't be any consciousness, because like Buka said earlier, consciousness was around way before, you know, we came in. I mean, that goes without saying, but the way it went down was because of Rev Phil Valentine, because I saw his tape. Brother Chris saw Mathematics of the Beast, Part 2, and was blown away. And I said, this brother is the deepest dude out here. You know what I mean? And he opened up the door for the conscious renaissance, because I had a conversation with Phil, and I know you never knew that I was in the supermarket when I first spoke to you, Phil. When you first called me, I was in the aisle, and you know, we talked business in the I'm talking money and everything in the middle of the supermarket, that I told you that I want to reach the younger generation that's coming up behind me. That is what I want to do. That is my goal, is to reach the youth, the younger people coming up behind me. Because at the time I was 30. So I wanted to reach the people in the 20s and the teens and the younger babies, and I want them, to get this type of information. So I got to give it up to you, Phil. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for all your contributions for the past few decades that you've been doing this. And I can never give you enough props because, like I said, man, you're the reason why I'm on this phone today and the reason why we doing this today. Indeed.
Oh, man. I am so humbled. I am blown away. Give thanks, brother. And give thanks for all you all have done to help this thing go forward, because it's you all pounding the streets, getting on the phone, grabbing those young people by their collars and shaking them and telling them, don't you know? Hey, man, my hat's off to you all and everything that you all did. And just that call that you all made to me, asking me to do that. All this time I was just doing the gatherings of the masters in the home and every now and then having my metaphysical classes. And was wondering what had happened to all the consciousness that was going on. We had come to a kind of a standstill after all of the things that were being done by back then in black media down in Atlanta. And it had come to a standstill. And brothers and sisters, we were doing the gatherings of the masters in Brooklyn. It kind of stalled after 96 and 97. And then there was a kind of a lull where the information was kind of percolating underground. And at the point where we began to raise it up and give it a new life, young brothers like yourselves who had actually been there at the beginning watching what was happening since I guess back in the 1980s when we had started it, and we didn't have the media and the kind of broad-based abilities to get it out there. We just had our little 8-tracks and a little bit of our VHSs and what we had to do to get it out from hand to hand. And when it stalled, I figured that time has come and gone. But then you brothers stepped up and said that the information that you all had been learning from Bobby and Delbert and myself, thanks to Sister Bert Hatshepsut and another sister, Uba, in black media, the information was getting out there, and the people were actually spreading the word through the slave theater and through the gatherings of the masters at my home. And then when you brothers stepped to me, when I got that call, I believe it was you, right, Dot?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Dot called me, and I was blown away. He wanted me to lecture, and I said, okay, sounds good. I'd take a cut and pay, and I'll do it, because I know what was necessary. And the fact that what really got my heart going was the fact that you wanted to reach your generation and the one behind you. That really gave me the incentive. When y'all opened it up like that, y'all had my heart. And like I said, I told you all that any time you needed me to do anything, because I understood what was happening, that you would have had it. In fact, after everything that you all had done, remember at Long Island University at that ritual, I had passed that particular staff, that particular trident on to you all.
Yes.
Yeah, you all were the ones that would carry that torch forward. And then now that Blue and Red and Rashid and all the rest of you all become a lethal army of consciousness. Now I just sit back in amazement sometimes when I'm going through Facebook and I'm seeing all the magic that you brothers have actually put out there. Now that you all have mastered all that technology, it still keeps me a little bit retarded. But all that technology that you all have mastered, you all are using it in a masterful way to forward the knowledge and to forward the wisdom. And again, my highest compliments to you all.
Indeed. Thanks. No doubt. So, Brother Phil, we've heard from the brothers to the beginning, their journey, and the different circumstances that it took to create the Metaphysical Underground. But we want to hear from you as to the beginning of your journey that even brought you into metaphysics. Because I'm sure that is a very interesting story. Like, who were some of your influences? Who were some of the lecturers that influenced you in the beginning? And what exactly was the circumstances that created the Metaphysical Underground?
Well, that's so interesting. I'm not sure if you got the time. I'll just give you a real quick rundown before we really get it in, maybe the next time.
Yes, indeed. This should be, because we do have you carrying Friday's show. For the majority of the show, we're going to have Sarnetta, we're going to have AA, and a few other guests. But for the remainder of this show tonight, you can, you have free reign. We're not going to take callers tonight. We're going to wait until Friday to do that. But you could basically just take us down memory lane as best as you can.
Okay, I'll do it like a trailer. Well, it started when I didn't know any better based on the fact that I was raised in the West Indies by my family there. Went through a lot of obeah training at a very young age, 7 years of age. Was buried, drowned, dead, came back, and I didn't understand what that meant, basically, based on the readings I got from Mama Azula, which is one of the people who were one of the mentors that guided me, or at least fixed me and quickened me on my own path. And then, of course, I have been an avid reader for a long time. I was suffering from a specific ailment that I could not find any relief from. My mother herself did not have the knowledge, even though she was a nurse, did not have that knowledge. So I went in search of that and came upon one of my first and more fit, mentors or inspiration to actually get more deeply involved in the reading, and that was Brother Kanya at the Tree of Life in Manhattan.
Brother who?
Kanya.
Brother Kanya, Tree of Life.
Okay.
Tree of Life. That brother had a Alexandrian library, as far as I was concerned, right there on the corner on 25th Street and Lenox Avenue.
UCLA, right?
Yeah, UCLA, University corner of Lenox Avenue. And we were there. I was there practically every day, 6 days a week, as many times as I can, from morning, the time he opened up till the time he closed. I even had a chance and privilege to meet Maurice White there from Earth, Wind, and Fire. And so many people passed through just there. It was like a mecca of all people searching for that light. And then I began using all of my resources to buy books. I'll tell you the history of my reading and how many books I read. Friday we get into all of that. But I had deep in the music business. Met a lot of people in the music business. Was about to make my jump and be successful, and again that shut down, I guess for karmic reasons. And then it moved over to me finding a way to heal myself. I did find a way to heal myself of that thing that had been troubling me since childhood. And then moving on, I met during my times at the Tree of Life a brother named, this is another brother that most people are not aware of, John Harris. John Harris was the one who actually formalized and actually made popular the Harlem Health Fairs. He was the one that actually organized all of it and made it as big as it was. He connected with Kanya, and with he and Dr. John E. Moore, brother named Yusuf Pollock, another guy, the whole circle of brothers that were there. My first inspiration was a man named Eric Butterworth. Most people are not familiar with him. He was an old-time metaphysician of the old school. and I used to listen to his teachings, and they pretty much were kind of surface on their metaphysical insight, and I wanted to get even deeper. So I went and joined the Theosophy Lodge on the 72nd Street there, and went and got into their library down into the sub-basement, and went down there just like I did in there, and as much of the books that I had in there, I had to have read over 100 of their books in there. And then I moved forward and met up with my second wife, which was Queen of Four, and we came together and actually grew something called the Heal Thyself Natural Living Education Center, and it was in there that I began to formally hold my first classes in metaphysics as a teacher. And started out with maybe 2 pupils there on 625, I believe, Nostrand Avenue between Park and Prospect, right there on Nostrand Avenue. And right in that place, we actually began to grow the actual reputation of Heal Thyself and the consciousness in the community towards self-healing. At another time, we met with another sister. Her name was Harriet, and she, at that time, had lent out her apartment to one Gary Bird. So Gary Bird then became part of the family of Heal Thyself, and from that point on, we ended up on radio. Now, we really became a threat to the medical community and the Orthodox communities, Christian, Islamic, all of the orthodoxies began to get an inculcation of metaphysics over the airwaves to such an extent that there was a quiet undercarriage war going on between the orthodoxies and these new kids on the block that were exposing the whole dirt around these orthodoxies and what they were doing to the black community in Harlem. So we were on there for a good while, just dropping science, and most people began to get into our juice priesting and fasting programs, and people were having all these miracle breakthroughs, and the reputation grew. It began to get more out of the city, down the coast, and up into an international, to a national, to an international stream. I can get more deeper into all the intricacies on Friday, but then that began to dovetail out. From there, it then began to grow, and from the Gathering of the Masters, it became the Gathering of the Masters because, I'll tell you this very quickly, the relationship that we had with WBAI began to sour because a new thing had been dropped on us, and they said it was something that was incurable, there was no cure for it, and that, it was going to devastate the community, blah, blah, blah. And what happened was when it hit, everybody was ignorant of it. We didn't pay any attention to it because we had heard about it, and I'll tell you about that story as I go over it again Friday. But what happened is, the truth behind the origins of the Metaphysical Underground was because we had been whiteballed by the very community that we had actually, enjoyed ourselves to, and that was WBAI. They suddenly closed the door on us going out to have a true one-to-one debate on the issue of what health was and what this thing called HIV/AIDS was in our community. But when the doors closed and we no longer had the podium, we could no longer get up on stages, they didn't invite us to speak because we were getting ready to debate with the doctors at that time. They didn't want to hear anything about it. So with the little bit of reputation that we did have and the trust that we had with the people, we began to do our footwork, and we began putting out the flyers. We said the people got to know, because if they're turning the backs on us and our only means of being able to get it out to the people in the immediacy with radio, if we can't do that, then we're going to have to go around on it. So that's when the official gathering of the Masters started in 1989 when we had the first gathering at my house to expose the HIV/AIDS hoax. And it was that day on, 1989 through 1997, that it began to grow into the gathering of the Masters. And the beauty of it was that the gathering of the Masters was not about you coming to see Masters speak. It was metaphysically put together in a way that those who were former Masters in former lives would know that and come to sit there and be remembered of who they were. So the gathering of the Masters was not about the people coming together to speak. It was the people who came to those events whose hearts and minds were open and actually came to that spot to create that magic and to open up that mitochondrial DNA memory to who they were as former Masters.
I wish I was a fly on the wall.
And, I like to think that we're even children of that as we talk about DNA and resonance, because my mother remembers attending those sessions as well. She was in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we are her seeds, that energy resonates throughout that tree.
That's right. That's right. Because I remember some of you all as the children coming in there. Mothers and fathers used to bring their children, and their children would be sitting there. It would be crowded. We could fit 200 people in that small house there on Carroll Street in Brooklyn. Anybody living in Brooklyn there in Crown Heights, the place where the magic took place was at 1241 Carroll Street between Brooklyn and New York Avenue. We lit that neighborhood up, literally, with the sound of African drums. We drove the Hasidic community insane because we kept them up till 3 and 4 in the morning. And Bobby could talk. And we would drum and we would play, and they would come to the back door, please, do you play? The cops would come. We'd bring it down. The brothers, they would send the brothers around. Brother would say, can you bring it down a little bit? The neighbors are trying, what do you call it? We say, okay, we'll bring it down. He said, just bring it down while we're here. And, we're talking to brothers, the cops. And so when the brothers go, we wait for 5 minutes and crank up the volume again, And it was definitely beautiful. We would, if we had people sitting outside in the backyard, we had TV screens, we had it in the basement, we had people on the stairs, the people would be bunched up, then we would feed them food, and then the next speaker would come on, people would be on the floor, we had no furniture, just pillows, and the place stayed packed. And we would start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd be out of there by 1, sometimes in the morning, 2.
Yes, indeed. Those are things of legend. You know what I'm saying? Those lectures that you were giving in the crib, my mother still talks about that to this day, as well as any elder that was there. So when you was doing 11-hour lectures, that was nothing new to them. You're like, oh, child, please.
That was nothing. They just crawl over, and then when they be sleeping, they get up and know exactly what was been said, for the last 4 or 5 hours. Because in that place, you could go to sleep and your consciousness would be downloading the information while you are actually, recharging.
Yes, indeed. And,
I'm sure Bobby brought refreshments.
Yeah, and we did have we had everything going through there. We were introducing raw food to the community at that time. There was a brother named Aris Latham. He was the man that actually was the person who introduced raw food preparation as a breakfast, lunch, dinner type of thing where all the foods tasted like the common foods that we were normally accustomed to. So it was Aris Latham who was the high priest, who's now living in Jamaica. He was the high priest of the raw food movement in the underground community, in the in the African or in the cultural community when we were having those monstrous gatherings of what we at the time called was the African Street Festival. Now, I know they're down there by, I believe, where the Navy Yard was, but they did not have the same kind of African marketplace aesthetic as it was in that Boys High field when it was first put together. There was nothing like that. I don't think I could do. I guess maybe it's my own nostalgic, old school, can't do better type of thing. That was where the magic took place. So it came from 10 Claver Place down there off Fulton Street in Brooklyn and then moved over to Boys High Field. And it was in that whole time frame where magic was being woven, people's consciousness was being uplifted. Not only were we being reminded by the masters, the grandmasters, Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, of who we were and what we did, but at that time, we, their children, were now taking up the other side of the brain. They gave us the left side of the brain. This is who you were. You were kings. You were queens. This happened on this date. This is what you were. Here's what happened there. And this is what they were doing, putting us back together so that we would now be this whole entity, this whole being. That is now these children have this ability and they have this access to the information to make them whole beings. At that time, we were just putting the pieces, the scattered and fractured pieces of our African minds back together. And it was those great masters, the Asa Hilliards, the Dr. Benz, Dr. Clarks, the Dr. Ann Browns, who was speaking at there, and all of these master monsters that were speaking at those gatherings. We would be there at their feet. But the thing we were saying is, okay, we're getting the external history. When will you give us what was the internal history? Because what we did is just indicative of what we thought. And what I wanted to know was what was the magic that made them know how to build pyramids? What was the magic that made them understand the skies and plot the 25,000-year cycles of our consciousness? What was that? And they never really got into that. So I said, well, that's our job. That's what we have to do. They gave us our story. Now we have to give them the mystery. So history versus mystery. That's his story or our story versus my story, which my story is mystery. So that's what we did. We went after the mystery of what their minds were thinking, how their consciousness was, what developed that consciousness to even create the great societies they did. And this is what you have. You have the best of both worlds now, as the young people, because we put both of the brains, half of the brains together.
Hold on, brother. Blue Phil, you beat me to the trigger. I already told you earlier when we were talking that my story versus his story, that's legend right there. That's legendary. You know what I mean?
We have 2 minutes remaining into the 11:11 meditation. And I'm glad that the brother has, rewound that clock, that time clock, and brought us back to a period where the family is experiencing the unity that he's talking about. And for those that have, had the pleasure to taste any plate from Aris, where, might I mention, everywhere I go across the planet, I run into somebody who he has activated, and now they're the raw food person in their town, magnifying the blessings or the blessings, for that matter, of bringing raw food to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
So I want us to take the light that you are sharing at this particular time and take it into our meditation. Take it into the darkest crevices of our minds and allow ourselves to magnify a future where we can bring this back for ourselves and our progeny and our family. Because what you're talking about is that level of community. You were communing. The family was amongst one another, and you were breaking bread, which in itself is one of the grand rituals. You know what I'm saying?
So it almost reminds me of what we have here, pardon me for cutting you. You know, we on the Blog Talk Radio with the family, and we are in your house right now. It's like we at the KTL house, but it's digital. You know what I'm saying? So it's a few hundred people right now. We're all, you know, receiving this information, receiving this light. You know what I mean? Getting a part of this history, time traveling with you. So when you were at the house on Carroll Street, it was the live version of that.
Yeah. So we're going through this meditation, and we will be back shortly, family.
Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani.
Peace. Peace.
Yes.
Okay. Get a family minute to come through. You know, people might still be in meditation outreach land, thinking about those sun-dried cakes and pies.
Sun-fired. Mom.
Sun-fired, yes.
Yeah, it's Maurice was very, very specific about that with me. She thinks sun-fired. No, sun-fired. The sun fried? No, it's not sun fried. Sun fired.
I by the sun. Yes, indeed. Brad.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Let's give it a second. The brother's line just dropped as well, so he's going to be calling back in. Any second now.
The meditation, Brother Sherman said, rinse this tune one more time for him.
No doubt. I don't got no problems, you know what I'm saying? You know, as a collective family, this is what we all need to be doing in terms of this energy, you know, moving on up. Moving on up. Let me open up the brother's line first and foremost. Oh, Brother Valentine, peace.
Hello.
Go back in the building with us. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Peace.
Get back with us. Peace.
Let me call back.
Hello? Yes? The line just dropped again. I guess he's going to call right back.
Oh, he dropped again?
Yeah, I guess he didn't hear us, so he's going to call back in. There's a little delay on the switchboard when I'm opening up the mics. All right. Yeah, I got the tune upon deck. So like I was saying, family, you know, collectively, let us all move on up. You know what I mean? But don't hurt you, only make you stronger. Get it?
Well, we're moving on now. To the side. To a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on to the side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen. Beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues. Just not turn at first. Long as we live, you and me, baby, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Forever moving on up. Moving on up.
Caller from the 646-646-220, Rev Valentine.
Yes, we're back.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
We took a moment out of time to give a brief dedication to the brother Sherman Hemsley.
Moving on up.
Moving on up. A day before the day out of time.
I want to ask a question.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Phil, about the progression that you begin to see in the audience when you begin to formally enter into the LIU platform. All right. Now, I was one of the participants. I was one of the students in the audience. And I went from being, a student in the audience to becoming a vendor, a participator, in the whole behind-the-scenes movement. And then I eventually, we eventually stepped forward in front of the camera. But one thing that Black Dot said earlier is it was a sentiment that I shared that in the beginning, when I used to come to your lectures, I noticed that there weren't too many young people in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And, at first it was somewhat intimidating because, we come from the hip-hop generation. So, you know, we would come in there, knuckle dragging, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And we knew that we were amongst an audience that was similar to our parents. You know what I'm saying? Right. But the connection that we had with you always made everything better because we knew that we could relate to you, and we knew that you were relating to us because you were speaking our language, and you had that swag and you had that energy that we could all relate to. So we always felt the connection. So I noticed that over the years, you know, as this thing became, especially due to the street soldiers, the brothers out there that were in the streets dealing with the VHS tapes and then eventually the DVDs, they were basically becoming Morpheuses because they were the ones who were stopping the potential neos in the street, or the potential neos were stopping in the street to holler at them about the information, and it was waking them up. Mind you, this is about 5 years before the rise of social media. Not the rise of the internet, because the internet existed, but as the family knows, we went through Web 1.0 and we went through Web 2.0. It's called Web 2.0 because the new version of the web was the social version. Mm-hmm. The first version of the web, you had to pay to become members of certain websites. It wasn't user friendly to interact with one another. It was more for research and things of that nature. So a lot of us stayed away from the web. Right. But what did you begin to notice when, like, what did you start saying to yourself? You know what I'm saying? When you begin to notice that the hip hop generation were beginning to frequent your lectures more, you know what I mean? Brothers would come up to you, you know, after the lecture, ask you questions and whatnot and things of that nature. You know, how did you feel about that?
I felt very good about it because they're the ones that I wanted to reach. It's interesting that you would say that we had a constituency that was pretty much my age or a little bit younger teaching at that point. That's just the way we felt when we used to go in to Dr. Ben's and Dr. Clark's lectures. We were the young ones. But, you know, we were there, and we essentially were there to find out all of what it is these great men had to say. And there were times, of course, when they looked at us like we were the young whippersnappers, and amongst them, it was interesting, they would, whatever it was that Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark were teaching, or Dr. Van Sertima were teaching at that time, it was as they qualifiers. In other words, the elders that were in the community that was actually, or in the audience, would talk with the younger people like myself and kind of reinforce and give peripheral information that even the lecturers didn't give. So we were being fed from all around. You know, school didn't end when the elders masters left the podium. It continued into the streets. So when it was our turn to take the podium after we had gone through the crucible and gone through the fire and did our work, did our research, and had to prove yourself that you were in there doing the research. As you said, we didn't have internet at that time when we were coming up. We had to go to libraries and read. We had to buy books, take some time burning the midnight oil to actually dig for information, and whatever information was in that book that led you to other information, and so on and so forth. We didn't have a left and right click mouse to give us access on the dime. We had to use our feet and sometimes our fourth and fifth sense to know where to go to look. And, of course, where we found consolidated information was in the Lucius Trust down there on Wall Street, which actually was called the Lucifer Trust, created by Alice Bailey. They had a library there, extensive library there on Wall Street. I used to sneak in there as well. So all over the place you used to go and find that information. And then there was Wiser's. Wiser's was like, Fort Knox for old books. I had thousands of books, and they're scattered all over New York now. Where they are, I have no idea. I know where Two Barrels are, but the rest of them, they just kind of evaporated, or somebody took them and sold them. But as I was saying, that when I began to look out in the audience, and the audience became younger and younger, I said, okay, now this is where the next leg of this particular journey has to be taken. And I remember such people as Brother Big Man. Well, the Big Man is another brother that has to be brought into this as a person out there that's on the street doing his best to try to forward that information. Brothers, I think, now in South Carolina living. But
yes. He fully acknowledged him, yes.
Yes, great. Because that brother was very much involved in that. We used to do our lectures with him up in Harlem on 126th Street, if I'm not 27th Street, I believe.
Yes.
At the Dempsey Center. And there at the center, he would do that. And then that's when I also began to see younger and younger people coming in, younger and younger people who essentially would travel. The gatherings of the masters, people used to travel from Pennsylvania. They used to travel from Atlanta. They traveled from Buffalo. They traveled from Chicago just to come to the gatherings at that little house. It was incredible. And then to see the brothers coming up whenever we did a lecture, we thought that we were just catering to the brothers and sisters in Brooklyn, New York, and Harlem. We'd look up and ask the people, well, you know, where are you from? Well, I'm from Philadelphia. What? I'm from Ohio. What? One time we were doing something there at, I think it was, I'm not sure where it was. Yeah, it was at Long Island University. His sister had flown in from California to be there.
Yep.
So it became something that was, it was exponentially exploding out. And to look at some of the young people that were out there, like yourselves, I used to see you there and your brother all the time. And I was saying, okay, this is great. And then when you set up with your books, I look at the books. I say, yeah, these are the books. They got it. They definitely got it. And not only are they just selling it, that they could tell me what the book was about. You all could tell me what the book was about, which meant that you took the time to understand not only the craft, but what you were selling to people, and that you could actually explain what was going on to the people of your generation and younger. And then I knew at that point that the torch had been really passed, because then it became more and more prominent that more and more younger people would show up. And it's interesting. The last time we did the lecture, I think it was on Obama. The place was about 500 people were in there. It was so packed after. We had to put people on the stage, remember? I only saw a handful of people my generation. The massive amounts of people that were there at that time were all young people. And that was very, very heartening. It didn't, I was not looking for the elder generation to come and support, but the fact that the information had interested the younger generation and the one behind that, it meant that there were agents of consciousness, agents of enlightenment that would be scattered amongst the people. And every time I would see those amounts of young people, I would think of Brother Marcus Garvey saying, you may have gotten me, but I left a few tigers, young tigers in the bush. So it was actually, it was always a pleasure to see the young people come in and do their thing and be talking about it, and not just coming there to fraternize and look for, sexual partners or nothing. Everybody came there with their other head lit up, not the bottom head lit, not the little head lit up, but the big head lit up. And that also did my heart good.
Absolutely. And, we're talking about an era in which you were able to see with your physical eye the spreading of it amongst the audience that was able to manifest at these particular lectures physically. But at what point did you understand the level of a breakthrough that you had made globally by way of the internet? Like, when was your internet aha moment when you realized that there were people in Australia, Africa, London, and they were actually, youth?
Yeah, it was the day that I got a telephone call from Central Africa. I don't know where it was, and there was a kind of a generator sound going in the background, and a young brother with an AK-47 strapped to his back in the jungle, cranking whatever motor, looking at a TV, and a copy of me speaking. And they thought that I was white because, of course, back in the days when you made a copy of a copy of a copy of the VCRs, that's how it looked. You got whited out whiter and whiter. When I got that call, I got not a chill, a bad chill, but this kind of shiver that the information had gotten and penetrated into places that you couldn't actually take anybody into. In other words, you couldn't just get up off a plane and walk in there and say, here's a tape. How it got there, I don't know.
Right.
And that made me know that, and then I got calls from Sweden. He said, brother, I wish you could come here. We have a black community here, a small one, but they know about you. I've gotten calls from South Africa. I've gotten calls from the southern part of China, from South Korea, from Japan. I've gotten calls from Alaska. I've gotten calls from South America, Brazil. It's all over, brother. It's all over.
Gee. Like that, you still with us, Doc? Okay, I think Doc's phone dropped. Brother Chris, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here, brother. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, indeed.
All right, I'm here. I'm just listening.
To the brothers and Chris, good talking to you again. I still remember how you hooked me up with Rashid.
Yeah, man, made that happen.
That was interesting.
Made it happen. And to clarify what Rev Phil said earlier, it was actually a vendor, Kamor, that was actually a legal vendor that was supplying the tapes, at the time to Rashid in there. You know what I'm saying? Because he was able to do that because he was an actual vendor, because Rashid was a part of an organization called the ACE, the African Cultural Enterprise. And what he was, they were allowed to buy from real vendors, from actual tape vendors. So Kamor was a legitimate vendor. So the money that they had in their account, they were able to purchase tapes from them. So they were able to see Phil on video inside. You know what I mean? And that was monumental because, he was playing like all over the world, also inside behind the wall. You feel what I mean? So, Phil is legendary for that, man. Yeah, he just broke all kind of ground and records out here, in the conscious community. So the seed has been planted a long time.
No doubt. I don't mean to cut the wisdom, but this conversation in itself is very important for brothers and sisters that are listening to the show, because like we said, the brother Chris was on the inside, and he utilized the information on the outside to create one of our most premier scholars of the day, who was A.A. Rashid. Now, we have 2 million brothers behind the wall. I receive correspondence from brothers that are behind the wall that are listening to the show. A lot of brothers in the feds, they got access to the internet, so they listen to the show as well. So there are people that are listening to the show who have relatives. They have people that are on a team. They have loved ones that are behind the wall. Take this information and take this story and apply it to your situation, and know that you can take these shows, transcribe them, or you could take them into put them into CD or DVD form and begin to feed the family that is behind the wall. And I'm telling you, you do not know what the kind of giants that you'll be able to create.
That goes without saying. We are automatically, as brothers that, what I call brothers in the cosmic diaspora, the fact that we are here on prison planet Earth, the brothers that are in lockdown at this particular time physically, as well as mentally and psychospiritually. You have no idea of the giant intellects and minds that are there and locked out, purposefully been railroaded and structured into the criminal life, and using having been forced to use their genius in the criminal way in order just to survive. Imagine now if we were to be able to turn that type of genius, that type of insight it would take to create societies, create businesses, though it's outside the law. It's creating businesses, doing things that a warrior would do. It's against the law, against your people. I'm not condoning it, and neither do they when I talk to them. But we understand when you begin to take away the opportunities for a man to be a man and a man to take care of his family, you either allow him and grow him and nurture him to be a provider and protector, or else if you don't, he becomes a predator. It doesn't mean that he has changed his genius any, or his genius has somehow evaporated because he became a predator. It just means that he had to act based upon his own instincts for providing and protecting in order to do for self and family. But you have no idea the kind of minds that are there in lockup right now purposefully. So yes, brother's saying it. He's definitely speaking truth. If you have the access to brothers that you know are ready to listen and want to hear the word, want to understand and understand the word, then by all means, do as brother said, do some kind of copy machine, something, whatever, download it, send it by way of email or whatever so that they can listen. And that, you have no idea how that would bring the spirits of brothers and sisters who are inside, who want to hear positive things about themselves and their posterity. Trust me.
Yes, indeed. And they often say that, it can't be done in terms of the transformation. A lot of people like to throw the keys away, but we have a living example that proves them wrong. You know what I'm saying? In the person of our brother, A.A. Rashid. So what I want to do is actually bring the brother in real time and let him join the bill and tell it as only he can. So, caller from the 213. Peace.
Peace, family.
Peace.
Peace, Rev.
What's happening, my son?
Peace, Lord. I'm excellent. I'm shining. What up, Christ? What up, Red?
Hey, what up, Rob?
Ain't shit. Yo. Yeah, man. Yo, I'm going to tell you, since I went left, your boy's the best. I'm telling you. Rev, I'm taking this hip-hop thing. Watch me use this to reach a whole demographic. I'm the hero for the youngsters. The rhetoric for the smart ones who is still in the trenches, in the places that they need the most help. They need a rhythm. You know what I'm saying? Because that other thing is missing. So at the end of the day, the Metaphysical Underground is like you said 20 years ago. It's a hip hop. It's the next wave, and thanks to you, we got young brothers that's saying it's cool now to say God in the rap. You know what I'm saying? To wear the images of all of the deities and whatnot, and now create the dialogue about, is there such thing as a black intelligentsia that now has infused into it a spiritual system? So the work is done, you know what I mean? For real.
Well, we definitely love it. We definitely know what it is that you have been doing, and I have been monitoring the kind of work that you've been putting out there, and I'm definitely happy to say that you have the articulation. I'm looking and listening to you all. You have definitely done yourself proud for maintaining the actual team.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I'm going to tell you what it is because we stay connected. You are a mentor to me, and you my witness. I come to you for instruction, and I always stay connected with my brethren. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I always stay connected with my brethren, so we always get an opportunity to vibe, and concur.
Mm-hmm. So most definitely, and that's how it's supposed to be, maintaining that structure. Because if I don't make you greater than me, what's going to happen when I decide to come back?
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I've been just listening, and your brothers are definitely giving it up as usual. So it's a blessing, for real. So, when you were introduced to Phil Behind the Wall, and when you disseminated this information amongst your veterans, what was the reception? Because the brother's talking about, the need and necessity to spread information with the family behind the wall, and how that has a possibility to turn on the light, because people do want to hear something positive, do have the time to really get into their mentals and actually start constructing a plan for the future. Right. Oh. Well, the beauty of it is that we had audio cassettes. And, in the joint, you got some brothers that own 100, 150, 200 tapes, but it's just music, So what happens when you got a set of tapes from Black Dot? You heard Black Dot's all audios. I inherited them. So I had classics. Then I got classic cassettes right from Rev. You know what I'm saying? So I was listening. I was programming myself. I was going to sleep to it. And I was passing them out to certain premier minds. We was using the tapes to distinguish whether or not we could even discuss or even have, like, listen to this tape and then I'll see if I talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Those is what those was for. Those was like, like you had to get through those chambers. You know what I'm saying? We had like the most famous tape. The one that broke the mold was nanogenetic mind control and manipulation of instinct, and the other one was dark transformation to a dark matter paradigm. That tape, seeing it is one thing, but when you listening to it on a tape, not on the digital, on a tape, it's a whole different experience. So we created intelligentsia. We had secret classes and all that. We was going in, and we was lucky to have a blueprint to vacillate all of the other information that's already in there. Because you got some deep brothers, some real serious cats that don't play, like real gorillas, that's very knowledgeable and don't disseminate truths. A lot, like a brother named Osiris. A lot of people don't know about him. Chris know him. Osiris was like a gangster commission. You heard? He's the toughest nigga I ever seen on some comedic shit, but he still was, he swing a knife. An old, miserable, knowledgeable dude. You know what I'm saying? So you had to get through these niggas' chambers. You know what I'm saying? So when we had this upgrade, these tapes, we used to be styling on the old timers like, listen, get with this. You understand? This is another wave, and then they'd be like, well, you know what? I already knew that. We was just waiting for y'all to understand it. You know what I'm saying? So boom. So it all came out of that. Shout out to him. Shout out to a brother named Saladin Bey. The first time I ever went to a Moor Science temple was in jail. The first time I seen brothers throw up 5 and 2 fingers, and it was a different type of Islamic service. The first time I ever seen a brother stand on the square and make them crackers, let him wear fez in the joint. When they was trying to fight him, he was, talking about nationality. You know what I'm saying? So, another brother I grew up with, unfortunately, I know he's a gangster for real. He was allegedly accused for shooting the police in the face. He's the first person I ever seen with a Dr. Ben book when I was little. My man Dexter from Queens. You know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, he back in the can. But these are like real people that when you get turned, it's an extraordinary person who has the ability to transform the environment into a cocoon of sorts to come out a phoenix. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of elements involved, and I'm gonna tell you, the streets ain't no different from the penitentiary. The only thing in the streets is you got to slave every day. You know what I'm saying? And go to work and play, and there's no like G checking. So a lot of people's getting away with murder. You know what I'm saying? But we turned that environment into something bigger and greater through our interaction and the spiritual instruction coming from Rev as well as Dr. Blair and Bobby. You know, I still got comrades that call me, and every time they see trains when they on the highway, they be like, yo, it's niggas in them trains. Bobby said I had to take what Bobby was talking about. They was taking all the black people out of the major cities, you know what I'm saying, and putting them in bottles of melatonin. And dudes was like, yo, this shit is possible because we done seen the worst. You know what I'm saying? You know? So I appreciate you, beloved, and I appreciate the twins for taking the consideration out to archive this information to make it available to the future so they know what their science came from. When they inherit, when they pushing 4-door Porsche coupes, and it's all right to be black, intelligent, and have money, they're gonna know that their spiritual system came from the gutter, and they're gonna appreciate it. You know what I mean? And turn it into a Ivy League melanated, you know, a Rhodes scholarship. You know what I'm saying? But not Rhodes Cecil, but the roads of life that we walk past. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. No doubt. And it's like I spoke to Doc earlier that this is just the initial conversation of something that could be bigger than this, because this needs to be documented the same way that the brother came along and did the Hidden Colors documentary. This needs to be put on film. All of the participants, everybody needs to get their proper light shined on them, and the stocks and the value and the worth of the work that has been done has to be reevaluated and then appreciated again. Okay? On Friday's show, we're going to talk about that in more detail, about what happened in New York. You know what I'm saying? What happened in terms of the conscious community, and also what happened when the whole online thing began to diminish a lot of the work that was done. You know what I mean? To value a lot of the work that was done, where individuals, you know, just you could run around and sell brothers' whole library for $20, $1 for each of their piece of work, and never said a word to Dr. Phil, never sent a correspondence to the brother, don't even know who that, you know, don't even really know who he looks like, but you're out there pirating his stuff, putting it out there, selling it for $1, just basically throwing it into the wind. So, you know, we're going to talk about these things because, like I said, I want to bring the value of what is being done back up. This is a real move. It has a beginning. It has roots. This tree has roots to it. There are pioneers that have names and faces. There's people that are not even here anymore. Right. We're standing on the shoulders of great ones. So, you know, it is imperative that we utilize, you know, the community to tell our story.
That's right.
To tell our story. And the way that this whole digital game is, the way that this internet, and the way that these slicksters are out here, these charlatans, you don't know who will come up in the next year or so and say, oh, the conscious community, Phil Valentine? Oh, nah, I started him. I was 5 years old and I was teaching him. He was in his 30s or whatnot. Nah, this was. You know, because a lot of people have a lot of nerve. So we're here to set the record straight. We're here to honor, you know, I mean, because it's to the point where, you know, the teachers are saving lives. The teachers are saving families. They're improving lives. So a lot of work has been done. You know what I mean? And like I said, I know that when Phil was doing this thing on Carroll Street, he envisioned something big, but he probably didn't know that it was going to be what it is right now. When Black Dot and Chris came together, it wasn't like they were sitting down saying, well, how much you think we going to make in 10 years, son, if we do this lecture right now? You know what I mean? Like, how much are we going to be able to sell the DVD for? It wasn't even about that. The brothers came on the show tonight and showed the family that it was about love. And it was about pursuit. Yeah, yes.
Let me say this, man. Like, I'm glad you said that because
Shabazz, Black Dot, and I, when we first started doing the lectures, and Phil will tell you, we started out Fort Greene Senior Citizen Center, moved to Brown Chocolate Cafe, and then moved to LIU last. But in the interim, even before we went to LIU, we were going hard with the lectures. And Black Dot, Shabazz, and I used to take a lot of hits financially because people in the conscious community don't like to spend money. At the time, the lectures were $10, and we used to complain about paying $10 to get in the door. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't do it for the money. Me and Black Dot, Shabazz was the tape vendor. He was the only one selling the tapes on the street. Me and Black Dot, we had, we were good. We had full-time jobs. Shabazz had a full-time job at the time, too. And he was just, he was the only one selling the tapes. So me and Dot did it straight up just for no profit. We didn't care about getting the kickback from the sale of the tape. We just wanted the people to get the information. So, it was rough. We used to take big losses sometimes. You know what I mean? Because people just didn't like to spend that bread, come out. Some people wouldn't show up. People used to haggle at the door. I only got $7.50. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have it all. I didn't know there wasn't no price on the flyer. I thought it was going to be free. You know what I mean? I done heard it all. Yeah. And just didn't want to pay. You know what I mean? So we paid our dues, man. You know what I mean? So you're right, man. It was all about the love, man. So we never looked at it as being a financial come up. You know what I mean?
Through it all, remain humble.
And that's the other thing I admire about the brothers is that Black Dot said, I ain't selling no tapes. That's not it. And Chris said, listen, that's them. I'm here to study. I'm here to learn. I'm here to make sure that other people understand what it is that they have, what's out here, and what's not being told. That's what made me admire those brothers so much, and would make myself available. I mean, I would actually put things back when they would ask me to do something. I would actually put appointments for other things back in order to make accommodations for those brothers.
That's right. That's so true. I mean, if you can remember, Phil, we did in Blue Pill, man, we did one of the most legendary one-on-one interviews with Phil of all time called One Up on the Frequency. I don't know if y'all remember, we did that in my house when I lived on Downing Street. That was great. I had to put that up.
That was legendary. If
any one of y'all can get your hands on that tape, I don't even know if I have a copy of it anymore. One Up on the Frequency with Rev Valentine. It was me, Blue Pill, and I think one other brother that was
writing. I think he was writing for a newspaper. I forgot what his name was. Brother.
I forgot the brother's name, but we did it. I know we did it in my house, and that was that was one of the best one-on-ones that I've ever seen you in. Besides Transformation to a Dark Matter Paradigm, I think that was a one-on-one you did too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was one-on-one with Minister Brown, I believe. Yeah,
Minister Brown. Yeah, that's what prompted me. You know what I mean, to do that same type of See, that's how the blueprint is laid. I copycatted off of that and those people who came before me. So I said, well, you know what? If he can do it like that, then we could try to do it like this. And I'm proud of. We did actually One Up on the Frequency Part 1 and 2. I don't know if you were there, Blue Pill, for the second one. I remember that.
The second one. Let me open up Black Dot's line. Dot from the 239.
Peace. Me and Tefiro was there.
Okay, Dot and Tefiro. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Tefiro, right.
Yeah, the brother.
Yeah, like brother,
Classic, yes.
Right. Yeah, that was a classic right there, man. Get your hands on that. I don't know how. I don't even know who has a copy of that now.
Oh, it's floating
Somebody
out there.
It's floating.
Out there.
I seen clips on YouTube. It's floating.
Yeah, there's one or two, but not the full thing. I don't think the full thing is out there. The actual full.
Somebody got
to get the whole thing because that was, man. That was hard.
Yeah, I enjoyed those.
I remember even as his brother watching the video, and I look back at him like, Negro, you didn't do this.
Blue Pill coming with the hard questions, man. The banging questions going in. You know, and Phil is the type of brother, man, he loves it. Bring it on. The harder, the better. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, you get the best answers.
Opens up
you get the best answers from Brother Phil when you ask them questions that were really thought out. If you ask the same rudimentary questions, okay, but if you ask something that took time, because it forces Brother Phil to go in an area that's spontaneous into his think tank and really give you that answer that you need. So that's one of the
gave me the opportunity to not only, because I was in the audience asking questions as well when I was going to those lectures, and I was the only ones in there under 40. People was just sitting there and listening. I'm like, engaged, because if what he was saying resonates with you, you got to have a question. You know what I'm saying? So what I saw with the one up on the frequency is that the brother wanted to be engaged. He wants his information to be reciprocated in the way in which you receive it, internalize it, but you got a question. So people engage your master teachers. You know what I'm saying? Don't ask him, you know, why the dude painted his hair red in Denver and all that. Like, go a little bit deeper. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, really study the material, listen to what's being said, make sure that you're not asking something that's already been talked about. Be a student, okay? This is the same way that you apply yourself to PhD courses or what have you, the same way that you're dealing with this information. Because this information is true. Yes.
Yeah. If you could remember, it even caused a slight rift between me and you, because remember around that time you were heavily involved in the hip-hop industry via Four Corners, dealing with the industry, and I remember I was in Miami at that time, and I used to tell you that you're wasting your time with the industry. I want you to be more on the front lines in the conscious community, because, you know, you need to just spend more energy and time dealing with the brothers inside of the community. I wanted you to be more active. And I forgot what it was, but it was I saw a video. I was living in Miami, and I made a conscious decision like 3:30 in the morning one day to book a ticket, a one-way ticket. And I was out there. I said, yo, I'm going to New York tomorrow. I don't care what nobody say. I took 2 outfits with me and booked a one-way ticket in 2005, and I never turned back since. You know what I'm saying? And I landed in Harlem, and I met Sarnetta on 100. I kept hearing about this brother Sarnetta who was taking VHS tapes and turning into DVD tapes. So I went on 125th Street incognito, like I was just going to walk past the brother and, you know, feel out the energy and see what was going on. So I saw the slave pictures and all of that. So as I'm looking at the slave pictures, I got hit on my left side with a DVD, and I turned around and he got holding up the DVD. If you want to look at the pictures, brother, you need to check out the video. And that day on, I was like, this is what I want. This is where I want to be. You know what I mean? And he actually invited me to come out there and to set up my table next to his, because I was trying out. I had a line of T-shirts where I had the rappers' faces on the T-shirt, Biggie, Pac, and a few other people. Wow, and I remember that. I had, you know, I was killing them in Miami, so I was like, let me try it out here. But because the brother had so much powerful information, and because he was resonating so much with the consciousness, and I began seeing that the people were gravitating towards it, both young and old. I was like, I'm not selling no damn Tupac and Biggie. You know, I'm gonna look like a fool. Like I need to represent the culture. So Black Dot, I hollered at Black Dot. You know what I mean? And Black Dot gave me a loan. He gave me my first loan. I think it was like $60. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he allowed me to go ahead. Huh?
Shout out to Black Dot.
Shout out to Black Dot for helping me begin Kings County. And I put King Tut's face. No, I put my brother's picture. Blue Pill had a picture that he drew of a pharaoh. I put the picture of the pharaoh and King Tut's face on a T-shirt and stood out there with Sarnetta one day, and that started the whole career, or the whole beginning of Kings County, right there on the spot. And like I said, I never turned back since. And then, and then it allowed me to change my position from being a spectator at the lectures to doing actual commerce at the lecture, but it helped me communicate now and build with the audience and the customers in a better fashion. So now they will come out of the lecture and I can engage them and find out, well, what did you think about the information? And how did the information, how did it touch you? Or I got to see them just when I had the images on the table, I was beginning to see how they were attracted to certain images based off of what they were learning and things of that nature. So it was very enlightening. It was very uplifting. And it was, like I said, I don't know where I would be right now if it were not for the community. That's why I'm very passionate. I take a lot of things serious because I know what this thing is about and I know what it did for me in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I was able to, meet the mother of my child and create a beautiful child based off of this. You know what I'm saying? Because she was another reason why I came to New York. And I was like, you know what? I met a beautiful woman. There's a movement going on in New York. The Brothers is about something. I want to help my brother Blue out. You know what I mean? He was P. Morpheus at the time. And I said, I'm going to just dedicate a few years. And I gave up the music industry out there. Like, I was doing my 1-2 thing, but I was like, this is more important. You know what I'm saying? This is more important. And I was corresponding with Rashid as well at the time. And when I began seeing his genius arise and wake up and the dedication that he was showing, that he was going to put forth when he eventually came out, I was like, this is going to be big. And all of you brothers have always been supportive. All of you brothers have always been your true selves. You've always been honorable men. You know what I'm saying? You've always been big brothers. Even in the face of when there was a whole bunch of beef going on within the community, all of the brothers removed themselves from that aspect of the confusion. You know what I mean? Because they didn't want to soil their reputation. They didn't want to soil their character. They didn't want to involve themselves and confuse the people who looked up to them. And I commend you for that because it wasn't really an easy task to do. You dig what I'm saying? To just let, to see what was going on.
Most definitely. Using Tai Chi as the strategy rather than straight on, full on karate. Instead of attacking it, just allow it to fizzle out because the more energy you gave to it, the stronger it got. So, no action.
And I look back in hindsight, I do see that.
Yeah, no action was the action to take. And I'm glad that a lot of, you brothers took that advice and just stepped off of it, knowing that the confrontational part would have just exacerbated it and burnt down the whole damn forest. That's again the reason why I'm forwarding the notion to any brothers and sisters that are there in New York City who do or call me from Atlanta who do want to know more information or want to know if there are young brothers who are on the frequency. Then definitely I call you brothers out. So there's no doubt about it that I know that the information, especially when it comes down to the scholarship, is in good hands. That's very important to me. We definitely have to raise the intellectual IQ, the intellectual index, consciousness index of our people. And we have to do it in a scholarly manner so we can be legit. And that's what that whole thing was. That's what the metaphysics was about. Metaphysics didn't have a legit scholarly approach. Most people did not see it as a scholarship. And what I wanted to do was to turn what they were thinking was just, spookism, as they call it. It was not spookism, and even my beloved brother Khalid and I had some very private moments where he would not want, he would say, well, this seems to be like spookism, but he would be studying metaphysics. And it's interesting how the minister himself began to become more metaphysical. In fact, when we went out to Stevie Wonder's radio station out there on the coast, when I had done the 11 3/4 hour lecture, there was a brother there named Brother Jamal who had a radio show on Stevie Wonder's radio station. And at that time, there were some preachers out there who were
talking, and that's when I was on full-on blast against Christianity. And when I went in on Christianity out there, and I started dropping metaphysics about all the fact that they were doing to rip off the people using the word Jesus and everything. Then at that part, his name was Price, I think his name was. Forgot the name, his first name. The day that I left, that Sunday I left after that lecture, the place was about 500 or 600 people in the audience, and the day after I left that lecture, they told me that Monday, the day after, which was I left on that Sunday, I think the day after, I left on, I did it on Saturday, and he had his church on Sunday. On Monday when I got back, they told me that Sunday that he did a lecture on metaphysics and mentioned at least 2 or 3 phrases from my lecture. So he obviously had some people in there. So we were affecting even the Christian communities out there in the coast, as well as here in New York City and all along down to Philadelphia, because we were on full-on a blast on the Christian tip, especially when they began to mass distribute vampires of consciousness. It put all the preachers on alert, because now they had a scholarship to deal with, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give, honor, so that when people talk metaphysics, it wasn't just about some kind of amorphous thing that you could think, magic and wizards and all that. It was science. And I wanted a respectability for metaphysics, or metaphysics I called it, because metaphysics is basically something that they think belonged to the Greeks and Kant and Schopenhauer and all the rest of these whites that were in New York, who actually were in the old African and Asian and Oriental schools and came out with our African sciences, the metaphysics and the rest of the things we call it, metaphysics. But anyway, that's what I wanted to do, respectability.
Chat room is saying you're speaking about a brother in Atlanta named Fred Price, the Reverend Fred Price.
That's the name, Fred Price.
Yes.
He started speaking metaphysics as soon as we left out of California in his sermons.
Yeah, I've seen his shows before. That's all he was doing at one point. Speaking metaphysics.
That's because the people were leaving. There was a crisis of attendance in churches during the times in the late 80s going into the 90s. There was a crisis of attendance in churches in New York, and I would get approached by a couple of the ministers there who had known about me being on the radio. Gary Bird used to have me on radio every Thanksgiving to drop the works of Ishaka Musa Barashango in talking about Thanksgiving or Misgiving Day. And when that happened and we began dropping the science of Thanksgiving as a historical, but also it being astrological in the whole 9 yards, the preachers there, or met a preacher, was talking about the fact that he looked up in his congregation and all the young people weren't there. So it was having an impact. All these little stories that most of the young people who are going up on, getting easy access to the information nowadays, they don't understand, like you were saying, good brothers, that there was a price that was being paid. There was an actual war for the minds of our people going on, and we were seen as the enemy. They took shots at us. In fact, a brother named Dr. Love, most people don't know, was driven out of Harlem by a Dr. Barbara Justice and a number of her people who were pushing Inforex and Chemron and AZT and all that stuff on our people, doing AIDS tests and everything. And because Dr. Love was such a master acupuncturist and we were really kicking behind doing the colonics, the fasting, we had one of Dr. Justice's just came out of med school. Afu and I at the time invited her to join in on one of our 21-day juice feasting programs. During that time, and this is some trivia, people, check this out. In that little place there on Nostrand Avenue, we had about 30 people who were on that program. We invited that doctor who was just out of med school to come in and sit in. Now, at the time when we began, we would meet every Sunday between that 21 days, every Saturday. And then what would happen is they would go around the room in the first Saturday and tell everybody what they were there to face their challenge. And everybody was there with diabetes, with high blood pressure, with heart murmurs and tumors and all this. We put them through the program, and 21 days later, that same doctor came back. And when them people were actually telling the people, losing the weight, looking good, saying that they dropped their diabetes medicine and all that, she thought that we would actually fix that so that those people would say that to impress her.
Wow.
It was serious. And what happened was when they came around, because everybody would testify, and she was the last one to testify. When she tried to testify, there was tears in her eyes. She said, I went to school, and I got a $25,000 nut that I got to pay back. And you're telling me that in 21 days that you have erased and gotten rid of the symptoms that I was told you couldn't do without drugs? She said, I can't do this. She said, I have to pay my bills. I would want to do it, but I cannot do what you do, because we invited her to be part of our staff. That's the kind of things that went on behind the scenes that most people, the young people today, not knowing, take for granted.
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. Is this the particular venue where people like Curtis Course was able to cut their teeth?
Ah, yes. One of my top students at the time in research on the AIDS situation, because at the time, you have to remember, too, that we were the ones that were giving fever to the education system, because I was the first one to develop a vaccination package, a legal vaccination package, 25 years ago for black people to take to schools that they could hand in. So my paperwork was the paperwork that people were copying to go and give in so that children wouldn't get vaccinated.
Right.
That's where that started. And Curtis came to me one day, and he wrote a book called What is AIDS in the Age of Whatever, What is Sex in the Age of Something, AIDS, that's what it was. And I told him, do you know what this is about? And I sat down with him, and I gave him some leads. I told him, go here, check this out, do this, check this out. It's impossible for this ABC to happen, and so forth. The one thing I admire about Curtis is that he didn't just hold on to what he thought he knew. He took everything that I said very seriously, wrote it down, went back, researched it, and wrote that book, Vaccines Are Dangerous, as a result.
Indeed. And that has, went on to help many of people. That's their reference source.
Mm-hmm.
And, those letters that you write have saved so many babies.
Yes, I did my best to help those brothers, because I knew what was going on behind the scenes. I understood. I was there. I've seen it. I was, most people don't know, I am a godfather of 36 children.
Wow.
And the reason for that is from the time when I was with the Ford to now, I have helped 36 families, men and women, to have children where doctors say they couldn't.
Oh. Wow.
And my greatest triumph was a little young girl we call Miracle. We call her Miracle of Miracel. She was born in 6 months at the end, and they pronounced her dead on the table. They were ready to dispose of the body. A janitor walked by in the room where she was and saw her little finger move up and went out screaming, this child is alive. She was no bigger than your hand. I just today, this past weekend, I was together with her. She's one of my favorite godchildren because she was not supposed to be here. She had a fighting spirit.
Oh. Wow. And, ultimately, that is what we're doing this for. This is who we're archiving tonight's episode for. This is who we'll be doing part 2 for, because part 2 we'll be dealing specifically with solutions in the future, what we can do to re-energize what we have created so we can pass something, into the hands of the babies that is worth more than their weight in gold. Okay?
That's what it's about.
Thank you for everyone's participation in part 1. It's already a classic simply because, we got a chance for everyone's voice to be heard. And the story that we have been holding on to for damn near a decade is now into the ethers. It's now been released. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, listen, let me just say this for Black Dot. Black Dot, one of the greatest privileges I've ever had. Are you there, brother?
I think Dot's phone might have dropped as well.
Okay. Well, just quickly before we do it on this, I want to put this on the record for Black Dot. One of the greatest privileges I've ever had to give back to a brother that has given so much to the community was to be there and to minister at the time of his wedding to his beautiful queen. And
That's right.
That was one of the best times I've had. And I've done about maybe 60 weddings. And that was one of the best feelings that I've ever had about a wedding. And it was an honor to do that with and for the community. Sponsor and starring a star, Black Dot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice wedding. Beautiful wedding.
Yeah, shout out to his queen, shout out to his family, beautiful children.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Black Dot is a legend. Brother Chris is a legend. You know, Brother Shabazz is a legend. You brothers had a vision, and you carried it through. And as a result, so many people have benefited. That is the ultimate sacrifice. You know, as people, you know, wander and they waver and they, you know, look for a form of a quote-unquote savior, and people like to replace one for the other, you know, they have to understand that ultimately they're their own saviors. You know what I'm saying? It's that voice is within all of us. We all come with our individual assignments to make these things happen for ourselves that ultimately will open up portals for others to benefit from. So, you know, with that is the reason that we have done programs such as tonight to show you that self-sacrifice, that unselfishness, you know what I'm saying, money not being the main objective, but still being able to provide a wealth of information in the long run is the key. You know what I'm saying? It's the key to it all. And a lot of people talking money talk, you know what I mean? But you got to put the sacrifice first.
Yeah.
Everything else, it comes. You know, don't put the bread second, because money, you know, money is temporal. It has a beginning and an end. You know what I'm saying? It has a limit to it. But times such as this, memories such as this, they have no ending. So I've said my piece. You know, brothers, you can definitely say your outros before we conclude tonight's episode.
Well, I'm an old man. I need my rest, and so if I may, and give my shout out to you all for this incredible event. This is something that definitely got to shoot me a copy of this. I want to pass this on to my grands. And brothers, it's always been a pleasure. Chris, Dot, Rich, Brother Shabazz, Red, Blue. See, I need my rest. AA, all of you all my love to you all, and all the work that you all are doing. The sisters as well, for all the work that they did and all the work that they're doing. Sister Abundance,
indeed.
Like this, and all of the sisters that are doing the work themselves in the community. I just want to let you know that as an elder, I can't even believe I'm saying that, you know. I'm in my 61st year, and I don't feel it, but, you know, it's all good to know that this thing is passing on. I'm hoping that things are going to start working in such a way in my outro so that I can actually step off and leave this battle up in the front lines to you all for a while I get the DMZ together and have this thing. My dream is to build a school from the ground up, a new Luxor, so that we could actually bring our children there, not send them to the enemy to be diseducated. And I'd like to definitely, to see you brothers there to help me see this eventuality come to be, and we want to see this happen. I want to see this school. I want to see these temples where learning is going to be something that is not just a privilege, but a right for our children. Sick and tired of looking and seeing these Neanderthals taking everything over and pretending like, that we don't exist. And, oh, by the way, fellas, just to really quick to let you know that they've finally recognized and said that they are not connected to any of us. In other words, their scientists in the Genome Project stated that they are Neanderthals and that they have no connection to the true humans in sub-Saharan Africa. Something to think about, which is why they have no empathetic connection to the brutality, the murder, the genocide. So every time you go on and look at your TV and you see people with red hair, you look at your boy who shot up them people in Colorado, he appears in court with what? Red hair. Notice that everywhere you go now, red hair and blonde hair, like the movie Brave, all over. Red hair is the new thing. Well, red hair is the hair that the Neanderthal had. And now that he is now accepting himself as the ruler of the planet, he's coming out to tell you he has no connections to you. So that's why they can flood the Valley of the Kings. They could destroy the pyramids. They could do anything because they found now, and they are admitting outright, that they know they didn't create any of these things. So since it's not theirs, to hell with it, they're going to remake everything, start history afresh and new. So something to think about.
Indeed.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take my rest and take my leave, brothers. I can't wait to meet you on Friday. All right?
And we shall see part 2, brother.
Yes. What was that?
I said we shall see you for part 2.
Oh,
you will give the wife our regards.
Yes, we will. And I will.
Yeah.
Take care, brothers. Shamil.
All right, then. Peace.
Peace.
Indeed. And to my brother Chris.
Indeed.
Definitely want to salute you. It's been a long journey, but one that has no blemishes on it, which is very rare in this career of ours. You know what I'm saying? I got nothing but love for you. It's always been love. You stand up, you know what I'm saying? And size can't hold the dimensions that you are actually standing, you know what I'm saying? So we've gone through many chapters, and it's always been about evolution. You've always brought me to that door, and because, I know who's brought me to that door, I've never had to fear to walk, and that walk has brought me into new dimensions and new worlds of which I've been able to reach my hand back and bring others. So the cycle continues, the cycle progresses, you know what I mean? And for those that say that there's no love in the conscious community or brothers ain't about shit, we got many examples to prove them wrong.
Indeed.
So
definitely do. Yeah, I definitely appreciate the acknowledgement, brother. Like I said, man, sat back for 10 years and nobody knew who I was, you know what I mean? And I just felt like Phil said, man, it was time to archive it. Something to pass on to my seed, and my grandkids one day. You know what I'm saying? As well as yours and your brother, you know what I mean? And all of us, Black Dot, Shabazz. And big shout out to my partner Rich before we go, man, Brother Rich. There's two Brother Riches in the conscious community. There's one street soldier brother, a vendor, good brother, man, young brother who came out of that, the vision that I had, when I started the whole Renaissance thing, Brother Rich, downtown Brooklyn, Underground Railroad, brother.
Underground Railroad,
brother,
shout out to Rich.
Right, Brother Rich. But my partner in Moo Productions, me, Black Dot, and Brother Rich, shout out to him. He tried to get on the line tonight, but he had a little technical difficulty. He couldn't get in. I don't know what happened. I guess I got to call him when it's done. But, shout out to Rich, man, because he did, he did the 5 Bloodlines of Hip Hop with Black Dot. The lecture, you know what I mean? Actually.
Yeah. The lines is open for him Friday night. I will be
definitely. I'm going to have him calling Friday night. That's Rich's time to shine, man. He stepped up to the plate when me and Dot, came back after we just stood back and had to regroup and said we were going to form a new promotional company, and and Doc said we need a new triad. We were going to have Brother Rich be down, and Rich was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll do it. You know what I mean? So
and deliver the class his first time out. Yes.
Yeah, so definitely, man. Shout out to Brother Rich, man, and shout out to yourself and everybody else who was there in the beginning. And, I tried to remember everybody's name that was instrumental in helping out. You know what I mean? But
if anybody was left out, yeah. Don't feel no way about that.
They will be mentioned on Friday. Yeah, we'll make sure.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
I'm happy you guys did this, man.
Yes, indeed. I want to say peace. I want to say thank you to the family for navigating with us and joining us for this monumental episode. Part 2 will be explosive as well. Like I said, we're going to be dealing directly with solutions to keep this renaissance moving. You know what I'm saying? Now that it's global and it's galactical and it has the potential that it does have, there are many things that we could discuss to make it do what it do. All right? And with that, I want to drop this bomb because it's long overdue.